Thumbs up from Haley as well. Okay. All right, awesome. 7 o'clock, we will call this meeting to order and welcome everyone in attendance. This is quite an event we have going tonight, and we're grateful to have a good community and our good friends and neighbors show up, and you're welcome to be here. We have a full agenda, so we do want to get started. This is a regular meeting of the Fruit Heights City Council, Tuesday, August 4th. And we're starting at our regular time right now, 7 p.m. Thank you to staff who has scrounged up as many chairs as we can fit in here, and thank everyone for their patience with the full condition of the room tonight. But we'll get started with Pledge of Allegiance, which we led by Eileen, a prayer or thought offered by Mark, and then we'll go to roll call from Haley.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we humbly come before Thee at this time, Father, we're thankful for the many blessings that we enjoy, for this beautiful area that we have the opportunity to live in and be able to enjoy the recreation and enjoy raising our families here. Please be with us this evening, that as we have several items to discuss, that we'll be able to do it with understanding, respect, and open mind, and be able to look at what's best for all of our residents here in Fruit Heights. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Roll call, Haley.
Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Mark Cottrell.
Here.
Councilmember David Hill.
Here.
Councilmember Eileen Moss.
Here.
Councilmember Blake Winslow.
Here.
Mayor Jeannie Goldberg.
Here. Thank you. And item number 2 is declaration of conflicts of interest. Sorry.
We do got the sound and stuff working downstairs, so if people want to go down and listen and watch it on YouTube, it is working down there now.
YouTube is actually working down there?
Yeah.
That's great news. Okay. For anyone who maybe want to be more comfortable, there are chairs in the basement, and the YouTube is streaming down there. I don't know how many can hear me out in the foyer, but if you can let people know who are coming in that there's space to accommodate downstairs in the basement and to be able to view the feed or the YouTube broadcast of our meeting. Would you please let them know that as we come in? We really are getting tight on space in here. Thank you. Item number 2, declaration of conflicts of interest. Council, having looked through the agenda, is there anyone who needs to declare a conflict of interest this evening? Okay, thank you. Number 3, reports. Council reports. Let's start down here. Blake, you have a report for us?
No report.
Not tonight. Okay, Eileen.
We're going to be hearing a lot about the cemetery in just a couple minutes, and we're excited for that. Just ask Darren, have we gotten anywhere with our pickleball bids coming back?
We got it almost all put together to go out to bid.
Okay.
We had some issues with the storm drain out here that we have to adjust because you can't have a storm drain running underneath it with a bend. So there's a little bit of alignment things that came up now that we've got it all surveyed and those kind of things. So.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Darren, for your work on that. Is that everything, Eileen?
Yep.
Gary?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. David?
Yes, on the emergency preparedness for the city, we do have a monthly call for the area coordinators, and that happens on the first Sunday of each month. We had that again. I do want to also mention about the follow-up on our wildfires in the area and the danger of fireworks. I'm sure you all are aware of the things that we've done for the 4th and the adjustments we needed for the 24th, and we appreciate your patience and understanding with that, and the limitations because of the dry brush and risks there. So if you would continue to be diligent in those areas and watch for issues there. I know that we did have an issue a few weeks ago with some kids lighting off fireworks, and it caused a fire, but the fire department was able to put it out pretty quickly, so thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Mark?
Yeah, I was going to report back from Planning Commission last week, but we've received several emails, texts, phone calls. So I think everybody knows more about it than what I was going to explain. So I think we're all on board.
Hopefully, I did take the opportunity to watch that meeting in its entirety. I hope council members did as well. And if we missed anything that in the discussion, you can add in from what you know. in
I
that
did,
meeting.
I did have a
So-
question with that, with the trails. It seems like the planning commission is not willing to give us their recommendation on the trails, or what is their?
It wasn't not willing, it just didn't seem to make sense if we're going to be redoing the general plan. Why spend time and effort and money on that when it's just going to be redone anyway? That was their thoughts.
I think one of the problems is the council felt like time was of the essence there in order to quit putting some of our citizens out.
I don't know if it was the whole council, but
I think it was a majority vote. That's what you got, was a majority vote that said we were going to do the trails.
that's what Planning Commission, to me, that makes sense. Why redo it if we're going to be changing it in a month or two?
12 months? We're looking
Well,
at another
it will be
year.
in process within a few months, within a short time. I think we have on our agenda tonight to award a bid for that project,
Right.
for that
Which is-
process.
Which is another 12 months.
True, but I think his point is, we've asked them to do many things, and MIH items, and they only meet once a month, so they have a lot on their plate. And what I heard anyway from listening to the meeting, so I won't take words out of your mouth, but was that, it seems like that's amending a plan that's about to become obsolete. Doesn't seem like, good use of time and money and priority when we have asked them other things too right now. So that's what I heard anyway in the meeting. I think it does make sense. I think that topic will be part of the whole general plan discussion. So
Yep.
it's not getting ignored. It's about to happen as part of the regular discussion anyway. So my report would be, I was going to echo some things that David said. Thank you to everyone for that during this awful fire season that we find ourselves in, and that everyone was very receptive and cooperative with the fireworks ban that occurred this year that was unusually more than most years. And even on the second holiday, when it wasn't a full ban, we didn't have any major problems, only maybe one minor one, but that was very quickly dealt with. And the one that earlier, over the 4th of July that David mentioned, was very quickly dealt with thanks to our first responders. So looking around the state and at the peril that's and in the country, really thankful that we have been able to avoid that at least in our community so far. So thank you to everyone for cooperation with that, and it benefits us all. Grateful for you. And one reminder too to council, the ULCT annual conference is coming up, or at least it's on the horizon, I guess. So if you want to put that in your calendars, I'm having a note here, but I forgot to put down my dates for it. You should have an email though. If you've not seen the email, I can forward it to you with the dates for that, and that we need to get registered before, at a certain point, they raise the prices for it. So if you would like to attend that conference, let me know or let Darren know, and we can get you registered. I always like to attend that. A lot of value there to keep up with what's happening.
Madam Chair, that's October 27th to the 28th.
Thank you, thank you. 27th to 28th?
Correct.
It's the 2-day?
October.
It's usually, I thought it was usually a 3-day, but it's a 2-day. That'll be in Salt Lake, I imagine. I'm not sure where, but it's good to make up our minds soon, because I think after like September 1st or something, the cost goes up for us. So let's get ourselves registered if you can plan on going. That's a valuable resource for us as elected officials. Staff reports. Let's go back to the back of the room. Jeff, you have any staff report for us tonight? No? Brad? Glad to have you with us this evening.
No.
Okay, thank you. Darren?
Nope, let's just get the meeting going.
Okay, Lane, is Lane anywhere? Does he have anything? I don't even see him now. Okay, all right. I know the roads got approved recently, so if anyone's questions, Lane can answer those. Public comment period. So we have a public comment period. This is a period where the public can make any comment they would like to the council, and we will listen. And please limit your comment to 3 minutes, and state your name and address at the beginning, please, for the record. We will strive, I know we have a full house tonight, but we also have a full agenda, and there may be a lot of people that have a similar comment. So in the interest of time, if you want to, I don't know, cheer for a comment you agree with, but not necessarily take another 3 minutes to agree with it, that would be great for everyone here, I think. We're going to try to limit that period to about 30 minutes. I did have one person who actually filled out the application to speak, so I am in the habit of putting those people first for the public comment. It was Amanda House, and I don't know is she here? There she is. So let's have Amanda go first, having done that, and then after her, yeah, she's a rule follower. Thank you very much. She gets to go first.
Perhaps we could ask
So
anyone
I'm
else
gonna-
who wants to speak to line up afterwards, so we don't have downtime in between. Oh.
That's fine. If you want to step closer, I don't know, it's crowded in here, but if you want to step closer, if you plan to make a comment, that'd be fine, or you can listen. I don't mind if you applaud for people that you agree with. Again, we can get the sense of the room, but hopefully keep our timers, or for people that have a new thing to bring that hasn't been said yet. Go ahead, Amanda.
All right, Amanda House, Coldwell Banker, South Ogden, resident, 1472.
You get closer to the microphone, please.
Sorry, 1472.
Pull it, yeah, there you
Real
go.
close.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, here we go. Okay.
That's great.
My name is Amanda House, resident of Fruit Heights and a realtor serving northern Utah. Every year, I help first-time homebuyers, growing families, and retirees purchase homes across our region. I spend every day studying our housing market, negotiating contracts, and helping people find a path to homeownership. I keep hearing that high-density rezonings are necessary because we need more entry-level housing. The market tells a more nuanced story. Today, there are dozens of entry-level single-family homes available in Davis County. Over the past year, 549 entry-level homes have sold, and when you include condos, townhomes, twin homes, nearly 1,000 attainable homes changed hands. Many sold below asking price after sitting on the market for weeks or months, and one actually was on the market for 580 days. Just today, 200 homes reduced their price. I recently helped a young first-time home buyer purchase a condo for $240,000 using Utah housing financing and negotiating seller concessions. He brought just $200 to the closing table. We have tons of programs. We have a Davis County $50,000 down payment program. We have Own in Ogden, which is a $10,000 grant. There are pathways to homeownership. I also want to address something I've heard repeatedly throughout this process, that these rezonings are required because of the state's policies. That's why everyone's here. That is not accurate. Utah encourages cities to adopt moderate income housing strategies, but it does not require Fruit Heights to approve a specific rezone on a specific parcel. Those are still local policy decisions. So I think we should ask a simple question. How do these two projects actually advance Fruit Heights' adopted moderate income housing strategy? Based on what has been presented publicly, these developments are not proposed as income qualified or MIH. If they are not actually fulfilling that purchase, then we should actually present state housing policy as the reason we should not be to using policy as the reason these rezonings must be approved. Most importantly, this discussion isn't really about housing, it's about governance. A rezone is permanent. The concept plans we saw on Tuesday are not. Once the zoning changes, that entitlement stays with the land long after today's developer is gone. That's why our ordinances matter so much. Before additional rezonings are approved, Fruit Heights should be clear, objective standards for density, setbacks, building height, buffering, landscaping, parking, architectural design, and open space. If a development agreement is used, it should be finalized, approved, and enforceable at the same time as the rezone, not promised sometime after. Growth is inevitable. Poor planning is not. I believe most of this community could support thoughtful, well-designed neighborhoods that fit Fruit Heights. If 7 homes per acre is the standard, then let's define that 7 homes per acre should actually look like. Let's establish those expectations first, so every developer is working from the same playbook. Developers don't define communities. Communities define their standards, and good developers rise to meet them. Beyond that, every decision made in this room becomes someone else's neighborhood. So before we permanently change what this land can become, we should ask not only whether it creates more housing, but whether it creates the kind of community our children and grandchildren will be proud to inherit. Because the question isn't simply whether more homes can fit here, it's whether future generations will look back and thank us for the decisions we made tonight. Citizens matter, their equity matters. Fruit Heights has spent generations becoming the community that we love. Tonight, I'm asking you to protect that legacy by putting the rules in place before changing the zoning.
Outstanding, thank you. Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Matt Benson. I live in Apple Acres, lot number 10. When we were here for the Planning Commission meeting, we felt like we were not heard. Not a single one of us who spent time with thoughtful dialogue with everyone was basically ignored. If you look on the website, the public document for the rezone already had a suggestion to approve. So one would stand to believe that the decision had already been made. I asked the following questions about a traffic study. No response. I just about got killed on Saturday because of the parking on Main Street and Hidden Valley Drive. You think it's bad now? Wait till we get an extra 30 cars there. Critical infrastructure. What happened earlier this week? We had a massive apartment fire down in Salt Lake County. 220 out of 223 people lost their homes. There were over 40 fire apparatus on the scene. It took 27 hours to control. Now granted, that's a bigger building, but if we put even 3-story units, we don't have the infrastructure to take care of it. There's not enough fire hydrants, there's not enough water, there's not enough anything. Not only that, we didn't hear anything about law enforcement. They're already taxed as it is. They're working on minimum staffing. Anytime you add that many more homes, you're going to have more crime or other problems. Because remember, they don't just respond to crimes. They respond to deaths. They respond to civil problems. You name it, the list is long. Last time we were here, we got door popped with a quote-unquote 4-story proposal when the documents all said 3. That was very disheartening, and that needs to be taken into consideration. Furthermore, and this is going to be the last thing, if we can't get the trails right because of the general plan, why are we trying to rezone this property now? We implore at this point for you to vote no and veto both of these rezonings. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Scott Lloyd. I have lived in Fruit Heights since I was 5 years old. Well, Fruit Heights in Kaysville. I presently live at 1274 Deercrest Circle here in Fruit Heights. It's a pleasure to be among good neighbors, isn't it? I think we all love living here. Let me just begin by saying that the moderate income housing has been presented as a reason why this needs to be done, but if I understand the minutes that I've reviewed from your very meetings and the planning meetings, the city is now in compliance with that, according to Jeff Euler. Is that correct, Jeff? That's correct. So we're now in compliance. So the argument that we need it for that is a little crazy to me. Anyway, if the zoning is approved tonight, all of you look around at your neighbors, because this is going to set a precedent. Anybody, any one of your neighbors could sell their home to a developer who could put up a 40-foot building with multiple dwelling housing right next to your house, because that's exactly what this proposal is doing tonight. It seems not only, I don't know if it's legal or not, but it seems immoral to me to do that to anybody. And I can't believe the City Planning Commission unanimously approved it. I'm just shocked by that. So 6 or 7 years ago, I stood before this very same city council and requested a zoning change for the lots for the ground that's right here behind us. That had been in my wife's family for about 100 years, and we had decided that we were going to divest ourselves of it. I'd had numerous developers come to me and want to build 60, 80, 90 unit apartment complex back there. Had the city approved that, can you imagine what that would look like for our city if that was what had happened? But I didn't feel good about it. It seemed wrong to me. It seemed wrong to put a big apartment complex in a city like Fruit Heights. And so I turned all those developers away, and we built this lovely subdivision that you see here now. Some of you probably live in that subdivision, and I'm glad you're here. Well, all I can say is let's not set a precedent tonight that other developers are going to think they have a legal right to do when they want to build a 40-foot building next to your home by simply buying out your neighbor. I mean, that's pretty scary, I think. And the city of good neighbors would cease to be a city of good neighbors if that happens enough. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Douglas Wheelwright. I've been retained by residents of Fruit Heights City to speak as a land use planning advisor. I own a land use planning service, LLC. And although I live in Farmington, just across the road, and I felt like my comments were dismissed at the Planning Commission because I was a Farmington resident, I believe I now have standing to speak for and behalf of Farmington City. I sent an email, I'm sorry, late in the day. I don't know how many of you saw that. My concerns are that the city sent out a notice, 500 feet notice, property owners, they went across Main Street into Kaysville. And then at the Planning Commission meeting, we seem all to have been dismissed because we weren't living in Fruit Heights City. In fact, I understand that the city manager sent an email to you all saying that most of the comments were from non-residents. I suggest this is way beyond public clamor. These folks have a vested interest in the existing zoning and the future zoning of this property. The Planning Commission, and so you've got a master plan that was adopted in 2003, and substantial city money was spent to adopt that. And it should have included an inclusive process that involves citizens. I don't know whether that happened or not. There seems to be some dissatisfaction now with the current master plan, enough that you're looking to spend money to either modify or replace that document. But until that is replaced or modified, it is in effect, and you are bound by it. That, if you go into that document and look at the future land use plan, these two rezonings are inconsistent with existing zoning and inconsistent with the proposed future land use. Citizens rely on the master plan and the future land use map and existing zonings before they make an investment decision in your city. And they need to be able to rely on that and feel that there's some level of predictability. I think that's not happening. So the master plan goals and policies and implementation measures were not addressed by the staff, nor the commissioners, nor was it included in the planning staff report. The master plan was totally ignored. I understand that there's some dissatisfaction with that, but it's still in effect. And there's a section 2.7 is called goals for the implementation and preservation of the land use decision of the city. And the title of it is Preserve and Perfect Future Fruit Heights Atmosphere by Limiting Change in Functioning Neighborhoods. To preserve single-family neighborhoods by restricting development to models that fit the existing character of the neighborhood. Preserve existing ordinances and codes that support single-family dwellings in established neighborhoods. This is an established neighborhood. How can you possibly ignore that and approve this rezoning? I suggest that you should table this, hold another public hearing in a larger format where you can all be here, that you members attend as well as the planning commissioners to hear the public comments. And then you need to weigh the competing public interests and make a decision. I think if you do that, you will conclude with us that these rezonings are way too intense and will destroy the character of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to give that to the City Council. Thank you for allowing us, or providing this opportunity for us to speak. My name is Sam Paget. I live at 1027 South Oxford Circle in Fruit Heights. Both of these rezoning, one is about 2/10 of a mile one way from my house, the other is about 2/10 the other way. So this directly affects my neighborhood. I oppose both of these. Here, you don't need to share. This isn't anything new that you haven't seen, I'm sure. And I'm probably, anyway, this affects our neighborhood, and I care very deeply about our neighborhood. We have good people, Apple Acres, Hidden Valley Drive, anyway, many, many good people, and then extending out from there, just wonderful people, so it affects all of us. Mark Twain stated that it's better to keep your mouth shut and appear stupid than to open it and remove all doubt. I'm not a developer. I'm not a real estate developer. I'm not an attorney. And most of the people of this city are not either, but we're not stupid either, as Mark Twain would say. I'm a proud citizen of Fruit Heights who wants to be really heard by our city leaders and to take into consideration all of our thoughts, feelings, our housing, and our situation. Neither one of these housing projects fit the master plan, has already been stated. I'm not going to go through all that. It's all explained in those documents I handed to you. But I ask you to consider, to keep those items in mind as this is considered. This would be a travesty if we make the wrong decision now. It's been said, it's never wrong to be, wait, let me get this right. It's never wrong to do right, and it's never right to do wrong. If we get it wrong, as has been mentioned already, this isn't just a quick fix. This is generational change that affects the entire community. Things have been stated very well. I reached out to Lily Bittner and Stephanie Hollis. I communicated with both of them. Stephanie Hall has said that she feels the density is too high and expressed her regret for not being able to attend, as did Lily Bittner. She expressed concern that the city is in a hurry to pass this for whatever reason. She strongly suggested that this is be tabled and time is taken to get the opportunity right, get the general plan figured out first, and then go through this. In conclusion, as I said, this is a time to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Greg Sanders, 945 East Hidden Valley Drive. My driveway is about 12 yards from the northern edge of this proposed project, being the Main Street project. I have a little different approach, I think you'll find in my comments, and that is, in studying the zoning ordinances and reviewing the law generally, I think it'd be well to know for everybody, I don't mean to appear to be talking down to you, but be well for everybody to understand the context of how you make a zoning decision. Your zoning ordinance starts out by declaring the purposes of zoning, and they give a long list, but the ones relevant here are providing adequate light and air, preventing the overcrowding of land, avoiding undue concentration of population, protecting the tax base, think Cherry Hill, preservation and stability of property values, and generally, the intent and purpose is to create communities and neighborhoods. And you do that by organizing the city over which you preside. The ordinance say that if you want to amend a zoning ordinance, you have to fill out an application. And that application has to include, obviously, what you intend to do and so on. But what I want to focus on in the short time that I have is that the city is told that they're supposed to look for two things in approving an amended zoning. The first is whether it complies with the master plan. And you already have comments on that, and I won't dwell on that. The second one is that there must be a justification. That's the word in the ordinance, a justification. In other words, you start by saying, we're keeping the status quo unless someone justifies why the zoning ought to be changed. Well, what's a justification? A justification is some change in the area or in the property. The latest, best example is the Shepherd Lane interchange on I-15. If Farmington City hasn't already, they're probably going to change that agricultural zoning to allow some gas stations by the interchange and some fast food places. So that's the kind of change that's contemplated for changing zoning. I suggest to you there's no change here. Think about this area. We can start at the south with Cherry Hill with a park-like campus. It's got some swimming pools, of course. It's got picnic pavilions. It's got camping areas, including tent camping. And it really doesn't have any high structures except for a couple of those decorative things. Sorry, Lloyd. Those decorative things, but it's a park-like campus. And then you go to the east and the north, and you're at the Apple Acres property, which is all single-family homes. Cherry Hills has been there for decades and decades. Apple Acres has been there for decades. Then you go to Hidden Valley, which is my street. It's all single-family homes. They've all been there for decades. And then you go, I suggest, across the street. Now, that's Kaysville, but it's still the general area where the zoning change is going to take place. And there has been a change there. And what has it been? Ivory put in a bunch of single-family homes. So the trend in this neighborhood, the status quo, is not towards change of increased density or more crowds. The changes in that area have been towards single-family homes. My point is that there's no material change here. There's no reason to leave the purposes of the ordinance, and a decision denying that would be completely consistent with the intent and purposes expressed in the ordinances themselves. The amendment should be denied, and I'll leave with a song we all know from Sesame Street, "One thing ain't like the others." And that's the problem that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Byron Foster. I live on 93 South Alberta Way here in Fruit Heights with my wife and my 2 kids. For starters, I'm a civil engineer by training and profession. I have about 15 years of experience. I'm licensed in the state of Utah as a professional engineer and 8 other states in the West. Over the past 15 years or so, I've worked on numerous infrastructure and land development projects. And one lesson I've learned throughout my career is that these types of projects are most successful when the difficult planning questions are addressed up front. I've also seen projects where important details were minimized or deferred with the expectation that problems could be solved later. And too often that approach leads to greater costs, more difficult solutions, and frustration for both the public and the local government. I do recognize that our city is growing, and I'm not opposed to growth itself, but my concern is whether this particular rezoning is occurring before the necessary infrastructure is in place and whether considerations have been made with how this fits into the city's master plan. I'm concerned that this is an exception to the master plan and not necessarily an integral component of it that's been carefully considered by all interested parties. High-density development places additional demands on roads, intersections, water, sewer, storm drainage, schools, parks, and emergency services. Before approving this rezoning, I would ask the city to clearly demonstrate that these systems have sufficient capacity and that any required upgrades are fully understood and that they're properly planned and properly funded without placing unexpected burden on the existing residents of the city. I would also ask the council to consider whether this proposal is consistent with the city's master plan and whether there are lower density alternatives or better transition zones that could accommodate growth while preserving the character of the surrounding neighborhood. As an engineer, I've learned that it's almost always less expensive and far less disruptive to plan for infrastructure needs before development occurs than to retrofit solutions after problems have already appeared. My request is simply that the city apply the same philosophy here. Let the infrastructure lead development, let careful planning be considered, and don't take an approach to catch up later. It's often occurred on the Wasatch Front in many cities that I've had personal experience with that the approach tends to be ready, fire, aim. From what I understand of this development, it feels like that approach may be taken here. I would ask the city to carefully consider whether the appropriate studies have been done and to make these studies publicly available for consideration by the residents of the city. Lastly, I'll conclude that I spoke with, I think, nearly everyone here on the council, and including you, Mayor, during or before the last election, and I was reassured by all of you that Fruit Heights is a great city the way that it is, and that we should do all that we can to preserve the character and the nature of this city. And I would expect and hope that you fulfill that promise. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, City Council. I'm Elizabeth Nielsen, 1189 Fence Post Road. I just want to echo what has been said by so many. I had in my notes to go ahead and address all those points about this development, but my main word here is premature for all the reasons that have just been stated so well, especially by the gentleman just before me and those that have gone ahead. It is that, according to the general plan, this is not part of what has been on that plan. And our discussions in the last 8 months have focused on the general plan and needed changes to the general plan, and those have not yet taken place. So to go ahead and approve this rezone would be premature and irresponsible based on all of the previous discussions and everything that's already been said. But I want to extend the concern of prematurity also to the vote to accept a bid for the general plan rewrite tonight, because I don't believe that we have had sufficient discussion in our planning commission and here City Council and as community members to actually determine what changes and what things we want to make sure happen in the new version of the general plan. And so we should be able to do that and lay that foundation instead of the ready, fire, aim approach, be ready first. And we need to do that prior to engaging and spending that $70,000 to $90,000 on a new company to come in and tell us what our plan should be. There is a reason we have community. I love that all of you are here. Come every week. There is a lot we can do here in our community to make it better. And we know that we can do it. We have smart people. But let's not jump the gun. Let's lay the foundation first. Let's follow the proper process and not repeat what happened the first time we put this general plan together. So I'm asking you to not approve a general plan contractor until we've been able to have more of those discussions, more clearly define the scope, give them the actual layout of what we want them to do so that we can then get our money's worth. And then we can move forward knowing how we want to have future developments and rezones. That's my request. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Melissa Boyce. I live on 1090 Fairway View Drive. So this is going to directly affect me and my direct neighbors. This blocks our 2 exits out of our neighborhood. And our neighborhood just went through a massive renovation of a home in our neighborhood. That ended. The trucks left. It's a beautiful home, as these probably would end up being. But there was a lot of traffic. There was a lot of large trucks when it came to the construction of it. And the biggest things I saw, our kids went inside. They did not ride bikes because there were more vehicles on our road. Our kids did not play night games because construction was happening. If we add these 2 properties at our neighborhood's direct exits, they affect our small neighborhood. But where will that end? It directly affects our kids, our new drivers, our children on bikes, our children on scooters, our children on these little road things that they swivel back and forth. My kids are teenagers. I have one more that still has to learn how to drive. And I'm not just thinking of myself, I'm thinking of all of our other kids that learn how to drive, that learn how to get in and out of neighborhoods. We already have a lot of traffic with Cherry Hill. The summer, our streets are lined, as we want it to be. Cherry Hill is amazing. It is gorgeous. It is fun. However, if it starts with our neighborhood, where does it end? And it directly reflects. We are small, but it directly reflects on us. This is not what Fruit Heights is. This isn't not what we purchased our homes for. We purchased our homes because we wanted to give our families what we had, which was single-family neighbors, single-family neighborhoods, fun places for our kids to grow up, great friends. And this is not going to encourage this. This is going to hurt. I'm all for growth, but this is not our growth. And just because we can, doesn't mean we should. That's it.
I can't believe I've been put in this position. Gosh. My name is Keith Lloyd, and I live at 1225 South Main. When I was a young man, I was traveling through an intersection, and I was blindsided by another vehicle. The collision sent me spinning across the street, through a tall hedge, into a backyard of a home. I was glad to be alive. Last Tuesday, my friends and neighbors and I were blindsided by the Planning Commission, and we are still reeling. The Planning Commission appeared to have made up their minds beforehand. It's how we accepted it. Whether that was the case or not, it appeared that way. And the Planning Commission seems to be made up of developers and people that have past or present ties to real estate. I wish and I hope that we'll get other people to serve that create diversity on that Planning Commission. I wish we could carbon copy Frank Levers and Todd Stevenson and throw them in some of these situations, because that's who we need, is people that are just good people. Luckily, there's safeguards in place. There's city master plans. When I was, when I went to build my home 40 years ago, I went to the Rock Loft to get a building permit. I was told at that time that both my lot and the 1207 lot were both slated to someday become commercial on the master plan, and it is still that way today. And I'm okay with that. I've been planning and preparing as I've gotten older. I realize that my home probably will not, because of where it's located, will not stay a single dwelling home, because it's right next to Cherry Hill. And both my home and the 1207 home they're supposed to go commercial. And I've known that my whole life. I've known that forever. So if it happens and when it happens, I can live with that. But the thing is this didn't follow the master plan. You know, if it did, we'd be talking about 1207 going commercial. That's the master plan. We're not talking about that. We're talking about high density. So we did not follow it. And if you're saying to yourself, anybody in this room, any of you on the city council, if you're saying this could never happen to me, think again, because I was saying the exact same thing 15 days ago, just 15 days ago. My life was perfect and at peace. And now, my dream of my yard and my home hangs in the balance and in the hands of just 5 people. My life and what I've put together hangs in the balance of just 5 people. And I can't believe it. I just don't know how we got to this point. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how a code can be written that a 45-foot wall can be erected 8 feet off of an existing property line. And that's the proposal. That's what we were shown, and that's what's before us. These sweet people that live along that fence line of Apple Acres, they're good people. And Tammy and I went out and we went and talked to them and we met them. And if this structure goes in, it will bury these people. They will be buried behind this building. If they take it back to 3 stories, they'll still be buried. Who is their watchdog? Who is their protector? Who is mine? I skip some of this other stuff because I just feel it's been covered more eloquently than I could ever do. If you deny these petitions tonight, the world will not stop spinning, but we will be able to take a breath. And it's what we all feel like we desperately need here, is to take a breath on this idea. The main thing that will happen is that you will show the people who elected you that you care and that you voted the way the vast majority of those that are here want you to vote. If you vote yes to rezoning 1207 South Main, I think you will regret it for the rest of your lives. Every time you drive past this out-of-place giant building, you will know that you were a part of the making of that. I pray that you will listen to the people, and in this city of good neighbors, be a good neighbor tonight and vote no, please.
council and mayor. Just a couple of things that I want to say.
Could you
First
state
of-
your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's how I am. I'm Maren Paget. I live at 1027 South Oxford Drive, Oxford Circle in Fruit Heights. So like Sam, we live, just kind of halfway between both of these developments. One thing that I don't feel that has been addressed is that, from what I understand, there were talks in the council and the planning commission in January and April about that R3 zoning was too dense. That was in 25. And there were plans to continue to discuss this, but nothing ever happened. And again, this rezoning is inconsistent with the general plan. I don't know a lot about zoning. I won't pretend that I do. I do know that from the research I've done that there is no state mandate. As Amanda started out with, there's encouragement from the state, but from when we talked to both Representatives Lily Wright and Stephanie Hollist, there's no mandate that we have to reach a certain amount of high density. There's other strategies such as ADUs, attached, I can't remember what that stands for, attached units. The property rights have been brought up about how the individual that purchased this lot has rights, but we need to balance those rights with the rest of the community and what is right for everyone involved. I want you to remember the precedent that's been brought up a lot. There's also several places, again, that Amanda brought up in Farmington and close by where high density, there's several moderate income housing options available. My theory has always been where there's a will, there's a way. And a lot of people say, our kids can't afford to live here anymore. Well, they can. We have children that are not by any means wealthy, but they found ways to buy homes in Farmington and the surrounding areas. And lastly, I just want to say that Lloyd's are the best people. They've done so much for our community, both financially and with service, and they deserve to be listened to, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. One more? Go ahead, Ben. This will be our last comment. We have gone over the 30 minutes, but I think we have a good sense of what these concerns are, and I'm glad for all the input that's been given. We'll let Ben finish it off here.
Good news is I wrote mine out because I've been told I talk a lot, so I'm going to make sure I don't go too far.
Awesome.
My name is Ben Mabry. I live in 1244 Bogey Drive. Most call me Big Ben. You can do the same. I don't know why, but that's my nickname. So, I'm going to read it. I'll stick to it. I'll try not to get too coach on you. As I sit here tonight, I can't help but look up at the words framed above the council, we the people. Those three words are not simply decoration. They're a reminder that the government does not begin with the elected officials. It begins with the people. It belongs to the people, and it exists to serve the people. Every person who steps into the podium brings more than their opinion. They bring the piece of their life, their family, their hopes for this community, and their belief that their voice matters. Leadership is not measured only by the votes we cast. Leadership is measured by how well we listen before we vote, how clearly we explain why we vote, and whether the people leave believing they were truly heard. For more than 25 years in leadership, I've served many different people, different teams, different organizations. I've always believed that every leader has two responsibilities, to be the earpiece and to be the mouthpiece. The earpiece listens with humility. The mouthpiece speaks with clarity. When either one is missing, trust begins to erode. Transparency is not about agreeing with every opinion. It is about ensuring every person understands the process, the facts, and the reasons behind the decisions. People may not always agree with the outcome, but they should never have to wonder whether they were heard. In John 3:21, we are taught that those who do truth come to light. Truth does not fear the light. Good decisions do not fear explanation. Strong leadership does not fear honest questions. My hope is not that every vote is unanimous tonight. My hope is that every citizen walks out of this room believing their voice mattered, their concerns were respected, and their path to decision was visible on the decision itself. Because at the end, we the people is not just a phrase on the wall, it's a promise that the people's voice will always have a place in the people's house and in the city of good people.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for those comments that have contributed. We appreciate that, and hear, obviously, from the applause that there's a lot of agreement with what's been stated. So appreciate also keeping us to 30 minutes so that we can proceed with business tonight. I think we've heard the messages that have been given in public comment. So we'll close the public comment period and move to item number 5. We have a presentation this evening. We're going to shift gears a little bit here. We have a cemetery committee who has been working on giving us, working throughout the year to see if we can answer the question this year, which I challenged and gave the committee a job to do, answer the question of, can Fruit Heights do a cemetery that would not impact our tax dollars? I guess there are other considerations there too, but we will hear a presentation from Todd, I think, Stevenson, you're going to present on where the status is with that research so far.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Todd.
Am I close enough to the mic? Okay. Before I start, I wanted to say thank you, Mayor, for letting people speak. And thank you, everybody, for using good manners and good decorum and no personal attacks and just talking about the issues. So I've been at other communities when I was serving in city government where it's not been that way. And so it was great. Anyway, we've been trying to get on this agenda for a while, and so I hope that you can put up with me. I'm really pleased to see so many people that came out to hear our cemetery report.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate about this cemetery project. I've been working in various ways on the cemetery for over 18 years. And there's been different committees that have been formed and trying to get something going, and it just kind of fits and starts, and it's just different reasons it hasn't moved forward. But I am really determined, and I think our committee is very determined to cross the finish line on this one. These are our committee members, and everyone is very active and very engaged in doing their assignments and doing the things. There's some very smart people on this committee, and we appreciate their work that they're doing. We've also, I didn't put on this, but Sean Stevenson was on our committee last year, and his work assignments made it difficult for him to come, so we're hoping that he'll be able to join with us at some point in the near future. If there's anyone that's interested in being on the committee, we're happy to have you join with us. Our objective, as the mayor talked a little bit about, was to develop a proposal to provide cemetery services for Fruit Heights City residents. A couple of the criteria are that the cemetery must be self-sustaining. It can't be dipping into the general fund or the funds of the city, but it should make enough money to keep itself going. And the cemetery cannot require an increase in taxes. We're shooting to be able to get this cemetery project, the proposal, finished by the end of this year. And we feel like we're making very good progress. Okay, I wanted to mention why is a cemetery important? And I think, especially with the kind of discussion that's been going on here, is a cemetery is what makes a city a city. Sorry, I'm a teary person, so don't. It helps us stay connected to our past. And there's a lot of reasons, I'm not going to go through all of these, but that make cemeteries a great thing and why we should have a cemetery in our city. And you look at Kaysville has an awesome cemetery, and Bountiful has an awesome cemetery. And in my work on this committee, I've gone around to a lot of cemeteries all over the state, and there's great cemeteries in these different communities. Okay, we can go on to the next one. Okay, this was a part of a study or research that I did was why we need, what the need for a cemetery in Fruit Heights is. I don't know if you can see on there, Fruit Heights is the green in the middle, and this is the county. And I was actually surprised that what few options we have as Fruit Heights residents. If you look at all the cities that are in black, they don't have an option for cemeteries for Fruit Heights residents. They have them for their own community, but nothing for Fruit Heights, and they have no plans to expand. Woods Cross and West Point have talked, well, we're thinking about doing something, but there's no definite plan, so I painted those brown. The orange ones are, you can, as a non-resident, be buried in that community, but it's still a little pricey, $3,000 to $6,000. Layton doesn't have a city-owned cemetery. The only cemetery in Layton is the Lindquist Cemetery, and if you have a flat headstone, it's about $3,000. If you want a raised headstone, it's about $6,000. So just to kind of give you an idea. Kaysville, I made it red because at one point in the recent past, they decided not to allow non-residents be buried in their community anymore. But they've changed it, but the non-resident price for a burial plot is $6,400. So it's disappointing that there is a real need for a cemetery in Fruit Heights. Council, there's a document in your packet that gives the details of that page, all the things from each one of the cities. Okay, what have we been doing as a committee? Obviously, we can't work on this 8 hours a day. We're working on it as we can. The first thing we did was work through and define what are the options for cemetery services, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. Do research on how other cities are managing their cemeteries. There's a lot of little towns in the state and around that have nice cemeteries, and somehow they manage to pay for them and manage to keep it going. So that's a question we're still trying to answer. And then looking at questions about feasibility of the cemetery, and I've got on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about that. We visited a lot of cemeteries. I personally am the one that goes out and visits cemeteries, and people think I'm nutty sometimes because I come home and say, oh yeah, we went to this cemetery. But a couple of them, West Haven, we went to West Haven. They've got a fairly new cemetery. It's great. These are just a couple of examples. Levan in central Utah, Bryce Canyon City. If I lived in southern Utah, that was where I'd want to be buried, is at Bryce Canyon City Cemetery. You got to go see it sometime. It's right there by Ruby's Inn. But it's a beautiful setting. Cedar City just put in a brand new military cemetery. So we talked to them and looked at what they're doing. We spent a lot of time talking to the people in the cemetery universe. Mapleton Cemetery is a private cemetery, but they've managed to do a really good job. I spoke to Lane Larkin, and he's working with cemetery districts and got a lot of good information from him. We've spoken with a company called Security National. They're the people that put in the cemetery, that's the cemetery up by the temple in Bountiful, if you're interested. And also with Lindquist mortuaries. We also ran into a lot of dead ends.
Pun intended, pun intended.
I didn't even think about it till this second. Someone started clapping. No, but people, it's frustrating where I'll make a phone call, send an email, I don't hear anything back. It's very, very difficult. So, okay, thank you. This is one of the things as we've been talking, and last year we talked about this a lot and kind of assumed that the cemetery location was very rocky and it was going to be very difficult to put in graves. So we went and did a dig test, and this is the results of it. This is done, Curtis Tanner put this image together. We went up there, and there's pictures of them, the staff who, by the way, I forgot his name. Lane. Lane is a master at the backhoe. He can put it down within an inch and pull it back. He'd be great at any cemetery.
Todd, will you describe why we're looking at that location?
Well, okay, the land is part of the land that was given to the city by the Forest Service. It's up on the bench above. You can see at the very bottom is Mahogany Drive. And if you're driving down Mahogany, there's the road on the left side is that steep road that goes up onto the bench. And that's the area where we're looking at as Forest Cemetery. It's where it is on the master plan. And the road to the left that goes off the page goes on to and connects to the cul-de-sac at the end of East Oaks. And that little road going up to the upper right corner goes and connects onto 1800 East at about the Farmington border. But these holes, we dug these holes and we found rocks, obviously, but there were ones that could be pulled out by the backhoe. One of them, I don't remember which one it is, had 0 rocks in it. So this area, and this is the area that we're targeting to be the cemetery, the phase 1 of the cemetery. So that, anyway, that was very good news. I was really nervous about that because we'd had a lot of the discussion and the pricing models and stuff we were looking at last year assumed there was a lot of rocks, and there really wasn't. And this in your packet, there's a dot. One of the files is that image. Okay, so these are the options that we defined or identified to be able to provide cemetery services. The first one, which in the past we've spent nearly 100% of our time on, is to have a cemetery that's built and managed by Fruit Heights City. The second one is a cemetery district operates the cemetery as allowed by state law. Third is a partnership between Fruit Heights City and a private cemetery provider. We call it a public-private partnership. Fourth is an interlocal agreement with other cities to provide cemetery services where we share the costs. And then a fifth one was a partnership with Lindquist Cemetery in Layton. And the last option is to do nothing. Okay, so, all right, so, okay. This one, okay, so this is what most cities do, this internally managed cemetery where they manage it, they provide sexton services, burial services, maintain the ground, and all that kind of stuff. The things that we identified with this, there's the city controls access to the cemetery, and it's a potential for a revenue stream to the city. And now, actually, that has surprised me in saying that because. I'll talk about in just a second, we're learning that there is a business for cemeteries, and if cities did it right, they probably could make some pretty good money. The cons are potential for loss, and so you're taking that risk, and the burden is on and the other one is the burden is on the staff to run the cemetery. And that would require in Fruit Heights especially, would require additional staffing and significant increase in personnel. Thing that we still need to do, we did this last year, but we felt like we didn't do a very good job, is develop a pro forma to evaluate the costs of doing the cemetery internally, and we're still working on that. Okay, cemetery district. The cemetery district is kind of like a water district, where a cemetery district has some legal standing to manage a cemetery and over a certain geographical area. They are a legal entity. They have the authority to levy taxes. The pros of that is it's not a burden on the city. The cons is the city can't control it. They'll do what they want to do. These are, I know as I tell people about this, I always get that doesn't sound very good, and I can appreciate that. There's at least 50 cemetery districts in the state of Utah. A good example is the South Summit Cemetery District up in Summit County, and there's 6 cities that belong to this district, and they have this district maintain the cemetery, do the burials and the grave openings and all that kind of stuff. They do have a tax. The tax rate almost across the board, it's a property tax, and it's about the amount that we would pay for the mosquito abatement district. It's very, very low. So there's not a major tax risk, I guess you could say. Okay. Public-private partnership. This one, as we started in, I was very doubtful about this one. And as we went through and we were interviewing people about different cemetery options, we had a very, very positive conversation with Security National and with Russin Brothers, and they showed a lot of interest in doing a partnership with Fruit Heights and be able to develop a cemetery. The pros of this approach, the provider would use their capital to develop the cemetery. The city wouldn't have to do that. They would provide marketing and planning expertise. They're experts in cemetery operations. In fact, as we were talking to these folks, they had different ideas of things that had never occurred to me that would be interesting to put into as we develop a cemetery. Be able to provide for different things like cremains, columbarium, the area, be able to provide that kind of thing, be able to have natural burials. There's a lot of, or family plots, a lot of interesting things that we could do. The negative to this is we don't manage our own cemetery. And so we're limited to what we agree with this partnership. But these have been very successful in a lot of areas. Bountiful is one of those. We have we've been working on a request for proposal, and that is in your packet as well, the draft. That helped the Coal West helped us develop that, and so we're polishing it, and one thing we would like to do. We're not ready to request it tonight, but we would like to send out an RFP to different providers. There's the ones that I mentioned, but there's also a number of other players in this space.
Assuming we decide that the public-private partnership is the direction.
Yeah. Okay, an interlocal agreement is where we meet with another community and say, Kaysville or Farmington, we want to do cemeteries together. Let's join forces and share the costs of doing the cemetery, and we can share the revenue and be able to have, like if we did with Farmington, for example, Farmington residents could be buried in Fruit Heights and Fruit Heights in Farmington. We'd have to come up with some agreement that made sense for the communities. But that's another approach. You could, and a cemetery district may make sense in setting up an interlocal agreement, because you may want to do it with multiple. I could see where you could do Kaysville, Farmington, and Fruit Heights together in an interlocal agreement. So, okay, so the last one we talked about cemetery, Lindquist Cemetery. There was discussion in the past about Lindquist offering space in their cemetery in Layton. So we wanted to make sure, see what the deal was and how that worked, and we went out and contacted them and discussed it. They were happy to set aside a spot for Fruit Heights residents. They weren't willing to give us any discount, but they were willing to, if we were only in the case, if we would purchase a block of plots, then we could get the discount. That's a real negative for the city, in my opinion, because it requires the city to have a capital outlay to buy cemetery plots where it probably isn't the right thing to do. So that's another option. And the final option is do nothing. Do nothing. So, and basically the problem with that, at some point we're going to be without any options for a cemetery, and it will be. I think it'll be a sad day if we don't have a cemetery. Okay. Finally, on the next one. Okay, these are the different items that we need to do. We're working on, I mentioned this pro forma to be able to evaluate cemetery costs internally. We're trying to schedule a meeting with Russin Brothers. There's people on vacation and different things. We haven't been able to get that done, but we hope in the next little bit. If we're interested in doing talking about at least an interlocal agreement, we need to make contact with Kaysville, Farmington, and Centerville, or Centerville, and see what their interest is. I've contacted the Centerville mayor. He seemed to be interested. There was some articles in the paper about Centerville's completely out of cemetery space, even for their residents. And they're in a little bit of a bad spot. And then we want to complete this RFP and send it out to providers if we decide that's the direction we want to go. There was one other item that there in the cemetery space up on the east bench, there's potential conflict with the trails, the bike trails that are up there. And we need to talk to the state, the parks people at the state, because they helped fund that, and see what we can do to mitigate that and be able to maybe move some of the trails. There's never been a discussion on trying to take that out, but just to make it so we can all play together in the same space. That property, the intended use of that property when we acquired it from the Forest Service was a cemetery. It was the primary reason. And we want to make sure that happens. Next slide. Are there any questions? Or is this the appropriate time to have questions from the council?
We can take a few minutes of questions. We do have it as a discussion item later.
Okay.
We can have you come back up and do questions at that point too. While it's fresh on everyone's mind, do you have something you want to ask about the slides we have these slides in teams, so if you're going through them, jot down a question.
Well, if we don't, I just want to say thank you. Appreciate all the hard work and the time and diligence you put into this. One question I do have is about public-private. Is that it's more of a legal question about that land and the conveyance, and whether or not we could enter into a public-private agreement with that land.
So the answer to that, just to make sure everybody's aware, the federal government passed an act of Congress to grant access to Fruit Heights, and we do have it deeded to us under the qualifier that it has to be used for a public purpose, either for recreation or a cemetery. There might be some other minor public purposes that could be used. You couldn't deed the property to anybody else, but you could enter into a long-term lease at a very reduced rate. So, for example, $1 a year. It's not to be a revenue generator, but that would be potential incentive for the private operator to obtain rights to the land without a capital outlay.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
The discussions we've had also along that same line is we would want to have some kind of a royalty arrangement with the provider so that Fruit Heights residents would get a better rate because we want it to be our community cemetery. So Fruit Heights residents would get a little better rate on the burial costs and that kind of thing, but then we would also get royalties from those that are buried there. So.
And I think you do that even if it's a partnership with another community, kind of the same kind of situation. If we partnered with another community, you would probably have some sort of a surcharge to that other community. The benefit of that may be that they already have experience running a cemetery as well. So
yeah.
So really their committee has narrowed it down in many ways to kind of two options. And we'd kind of like to see what the council feels about things.
Okay.
Just a little bit of a.
I have one clarification. On the third slide, you had said that there's 3 requirements for proposal. It must be self-sustaining, no tax increases, and must be this proposal incomplete by the end of this year. Are all of these strategies equally meeting those 3 requirements?
Well, the proposal, getting it done,
Sure.
is a little bit different, but yeah, we've been coming back to these. I think they're both equally important.
Well, and the reality of it is that one thing that we have found is that there are cemeteries that are profit making for private sector. And so even if we just did some sort of a situation, so a couple of different things that we have encountered with a public-private partnership, the private company has an option frequently to finance things that a city would not. And so they can offer financing on a lot, a burial plot. They can offer or put in roads without, upfront cost to the city. They would bear those costs. So that's one thing that a private public partnership would do for us, would be we just turn it over to them and have them build the infrastructure and the whole thing. But at the same time, then, of course, they would expect a profit on what they're making. I don't think at any time has the city ever thought that this should be something that comes out of tax dollars. That's one reason we don't have it already, is because we have worked trying to figure out. And back in the day when you were thinking that you could buy a cemetery plot for $900, we were really struggling to figure out how this makes sense to a city, because we do have to put a road in, or someone has to put a road in. And at $900 for a lot, it's very difficult to figure out how to pay for that. But now situations have changed. And in fact, when we, several years ago, kind of put together a gold standard of what a cemetery could look like, we came up and we said, gosh, that could cost $3,000 a lot. And we were like, whoa, that's a lot of money. But now we look at Kaysville charging $6,400 a lot, and we say, oh, maybe that's something that we could do.
The purchase of a plot is okay, but what will really wake you up from the dead is what they charge to open the grave.
Open and close, correct? And Kaysville also charges a premium to people who are out of their city for that as well. So that would be something also. You're exactly right. That is part of it. So.
Couple of thoughts or questions. I think the presentation was very good. I enjoyed reading through it and learned a lot, and it looks like you're really trying to do a good effort of getting the information and checking out all resources. I would encourage, if we move forward, to probably go do some digging in phase 2, before we make a commitment, because I've heard from people that have been up there and some old timers that it is pretty rocky in certain areas up there. So I just think we need to explore, all of it. Yeah, it looked like you did phase 1, which is great, but if we go down one of these paths, we could be into phase 2 pretty soon. And if we get into phase 2 and we can't dig, then we've got an issue.
Mark, to address that just a little bit, if I could, the folks from Security National came out and walked the property, and it was very interesting because they first of all, when we first met with them here at the city building, they said, well, and we can bring in boulders because we like to terrace and that kind of stuff. And they got up there and they saw the rocks and they're like, oh, we could have rocks, we could terrace, we could do. So they were actually quite pleased to see rocks, which was interesting.
Well, seeing rocks is different than trying to
Yes.
dig a hole
Right.
that you've paid, $5,000 for, and you
Well, you
can't,
would-
you have to use dynamite.
Right.
I'm just saying, you're doing a good job checking things out, so let's take it to the next
Okay.
step and check phase 2.
Yeah, it's well
So
said. We'll
the
work on
And
answer,
then-
oh, sorry, you have no more.
You want me to
I
stop?
thought you were done, but go ahead.
No, I'm not done.
Please.
I lived in Bountiful by the private one for 11 years. And for a good portion of that time, it was absolutely spectacular, very nice. But then for about 3 years, they must have changed ownership or somebody else bought it. And it was awful. But then, after about 3 years, it must have changed ownership again. So I think if you're looking at going into a partnership with somebody, we really need to check out their history, success, and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And then, as you know, I was in part of the memorial, and we did the same thing, driving around looking at memorials throughout the state. And most memorials are tied into kind of by cemeteries or so forth. And there were some drop-dead gorgeous cemeteries, but then there's also some that you could tell they weren't funded properly or it didn't do well. So those are just a couple thoughts to think about as you're moving forward.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So I was going to say, the answer to David's question, when you're going through all these different models, as you did in the presentation, do they all meet the criteria of not impacting taxes and not causing a new tax or impacting our general fund? The answer is no, they don't all meet that, which is why I think you're trying to head in the direction of public-private being the most likely or potentially likely option, not yet really known, but that's the reason for the emphasis there, because the other, except for the Lindquist in Layton option, that would be a net zero cost to the city. Even if we did upfront purchase a block of plots, then as residents could buy them in our so-called section of that cemetery, it would end up to be a zero cost to the city and zero maintenance, of course, and things like that. So that one option is the only, I guess, known option that would not be impactful to taxes at this moment, and could, in fact, be done immediately if there was a desire to do that. But I notice on your, what still needs to be done is, the first one is complete pro forma to evaluate actual cemetery costs. So that's been a long-standing matter of question and debate, and not so much debate, but kind of like, how do we get our arms around exactly what a cemetery would cost? And there are not a lot of companies or advisors that do that kind of analysis. It just is not, it's a niche kind of a business. But we have reached out to one, and I sent you that information, committee's aware of that. And we can take advantage that the council has voiced their support this year to put some funding behind doing an actual study and getting those hard numbers there. And we have an opportunity to get that professionally done. So I'd like to suggest we organize that meeting with that company.
I reached out to them and they haven't returned my call.
Okay.
Oh no, another dead end.
So.
Oh no.
I'm glad you let me know.
Another dead end.
I can, let me help you reach out, and it's summertime. He took a while the first time I reached out to, because I think he was out of town, but we can get that put together.
Yeah, I would like to kind of work on something internally for a little bit and then see if it makes sense to move, because it's, in my opinion, it's kind of expensive to get this, to have them come and do our thing, but that's up to
It
the
does,
council.
you get what you pay for, though.
Yeah.
And no offense to wonderful people on the committee, but an outside objective analysis, I think, is going to be something more robust and reliable, and from a company that does have a lot of experience putting those things together. And there's never been a council till now that has signaled they would support doing a real study like that. And so it's my suggestion to council that you support doing that study, and we can do this number one item here has been a question hanging out there in the community for quite a long time. We can get the answer to that. That's not to say that that what else you're working on has to be put on hold. I think those go together. In parallel. You can still inquire about the public partner or public-private partnership option at the same time.
Okay.
Are there more comments from council at this time? More questions? Okay. There more sometimes in meetings as these things percolate, we'll come back, circle back. We'll come back to it, circle back briefly on the agenda a little bit later in case anything else has arisen. It's kind of how things work for me anyway. Think of something later. So thanks for hanging out here, Todd. Appreciate you. We will move to discussion items. First item, sorry, one moment, let me make a note. First item is to 6.1, the rezone approximately 0.701 acres from RS12 to R3, and the 0.255 acres from C2 to R3. This would be the property located at 12 South Main Street. To be clear, the property formerly owned by the Lloyd family and by Cherry Hill. So discussion is open to that particular lot right now. Keep the other one separate maybe for the next item, discussion item.
I have a question,
Yes.
if I could. We have very little property in Fruit Heights that is suitable for commercial. And we're looking at, once again, giving that up. Many, many years ago, before Orchard Farms went in, the Planning Commission at that time recommended that that area be considered for commercial. And obviously, it's not. It's higher density housing. And when we talk about commercial property, one of the things that you talk about is the tax dollars that come from certain types of commercial property. And so that's one of the things we would be giving up is potential tax dollars coming from perhaps a sandwich shop or different types of little restaurants or something that might find themselves wanting to be close to Cherry Hill at the end of a day. And some of this is already zoned commercial. If we rezoned the property to the C2 on this property, it would give the developer approximately 14 units. It also limits the height of buildings to 35 feet instead of 45 feet, so they don't stick out so much. And it also has a little greater, if it's commercial, has greater setbacks from a residential area. So I guess my question is, why are we not considering this being commercial, the area that is the RS12 being commercial instead of the high-density housing, the R3?
Brad has.
I mean, my immediate thought is because that's the application before us at the moment, but Brad, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to make. So the application, so when a property owner or somebody that has a contract for property wants to make an application for a rezone, the city doesn't choose what you rezone, the developer chooses that rezone that they want. So I would not advise the council to substitute the zone that they're asking for. And in fact, if if you'll allow me, I just want to kind of go over kind of the options that are before the council tonight, of
Okay.
what you can and what I would recommend your options are. So a rezone is not something that a developer or applicant is entitled to. It's a completely discretionary decision. The council has complete leeway to turn it down or to approve it, one way or another. I want to just address a couple of points that were raised in public, not because I'm disagreeing with anybody, just to clarify. So when a planning commission gets an application, the planning commission does not solicit those applications, right? Developer, or property owner, or potentially an agent of a property owner files an application with the city, and the planning commission's job is to review it and make a recommendation to the council. The planning commission does not approve a rezone. That's not what Utah law allows. All they do is make a recommendation to the council. So yes, the council or the planning commission did make a unanimous recommendation for approval of the two applications before the council tonight. The options before the council tonight are, obviously, you have an obligation to balance the existing property owners and the property rights of the applicant, right? So that can be really hard. Obviously, we've heard a number of public comments. I know that the council received a number of written comments in email and in text form. All, I think it was nearly unanimous about the density is just too high for these particular parcels. And under the R3, I think you're at a 24 units per acre. Under the C2 zone, there's still residential is permitted under that, even multifamily. And if there's a couple of calculations, it's a little bit nuanced, but roughly you're talking about 15 units per acre.
14.
Is about, it's close. I think there's a half, if you round up, it's 15.
Yeah,
if you round
up or
down.
round down.
Yeah.
Most cities round down.
Yeah, it depends. But yeah, it's hard to get a half a house on a half a unit somewhere. But anyway, so what the council has before it tonight, their options are, number one, is they can vote to approve it. Notwithstanding what the general plan has. General plans are guidelines, they're not mandates. We are not a state that when you adopt a general plan, you have to follow it to the T. That's not accurate, and in fact, 99% of all rezones don't necessarily follow a general plan that cities have adopted. And don't quote me on that statistic, but because 47% of all statistics are made up anyway. Anyway, so the council has the option to approve that. The council also has the option to deny it. The council also has the option to table it. That is a possibility, and engage in further discussions, with the developers, with the applicants, to see if there's not an option. I know that there's been some discussions, can or can we not have a development agreement? And there's a couple of nuances to that, and I want to just address that. So the answer is the council cannot, it would be illegal for the council to approve a rezone subject to a development agreement. So if that is a desire, erase that, that's not legal. But if, let's say, the council tables this, for example, and goes back and says, hey, let's have further conversations with this, let's see if we can come up with something that's mutually agreeable, they can enter into a development agreement and then make the development agreement. Once that's agreed upon, then the council can contractually obligate themselves to rezone it to an appropriate zone. But in that contract, in those negotiations, you can limit the number of units by contract. We can't compel that but if it was mutually agreeable, the developer is willing to do it, the city was willing to do it, it's perfectly legal, and it's done often, frequently, depending on the city, depending on the council, sometimes more frequently than others. But those are kind of your options. If the council denies it tonight, the developer would not be able to come back with the same proposal. The same developer would not be able to come back with the same rezone application for at least a year. So that's one of the options available. Is there any questions on that? Because I know there's been some discussion about whether you can do a development agreement, whether you can't. It matters on the order, and it matters on mutual agreement. You can do it before the rezone, you can't condition it upon the rezone, and you can't do it after the rezone, if that makes sense. Do any of you have any questions related to those options that we look at? Obviously, you've got to balance, as far as a policy consideration, you've got to balance the public comments that you've heard tonight, that you received in writing, and the development, the development rights and property rights that you have before you and that are being asked for. So again, you don't have to, there's nothing to obligate you to do a rezone, but those are kind of your options, if that makes sense, and if anybody has any questions, happy to.
Yeah, I have a question. I was at the Planning Commission, and both developers seemed to be willing to talk or negotiate or do that type of stuff, which is what you're saying if we put it on hold. But then as a city council, can we then talk to the two developers, one-on-one or as a group? Or would the Planning Commission have to do that? Because I think we need to get in the same room.
So my recommendation would be you make some, it would, before any approvals happen, right, they would come back before the council. My recommendation would be you would direct staff to have those discussions, give them some guidelines in a motion potentially, give them some guidelines on what you are willing to do, I guess, I don't know, and maybe you don't know. Maybe it's come back and have multiple options before you that the developer is willing to do. As we've talked about, growth is inevitable. Cities actually are required by law to process development applications, but current law doesn't require cities to grant rezones. One of the things I think it's important to recognize, just understand this, on the 0.7 acre parcel, you can't do 14, but you can do 14 per acre. So the developer already has on that specific parcel an ability to do up to, let's just go with Councilmember Moss's number, 14 per acre. It's going to be less than that because it's 0.7.
No, I figured the amount of acreage that it is.
Okay.
The .956, then subtracting that.
There's one that has two parcels together, right?
Right, and it would be-
one's C2 and one's not.
Correct, and if they were both C2,
Right, and I'm talking about just if we don't do any rezone at all.
oh, if you don't, okay,
Yeah.
then no, it's not the 14, right?
Yeah. So if you don't do any at all, it's probably maybe 10-ish on the 0.7 acre parcel, something like that, that they're able to do right now.
Well-
Don't quote me on the number, but it's close to that.
Well, it's an R12,
The
so no,
0.7
it wouldn't
is-
even be
Wait,
that high.
oh wait, sorry, the
larger part is the
0.7 is the
R12.
RS12? Okay.
Yeah,
It's the
so-
smaller
Cancel
part
that.
that's the
That's
C2.
So no, that's
Yeah,
not
you're right.
an option.
You're right. The C2 zone allows, whatever it is.
Right, and so I was thinking
Yeah.
if the proposal had been a C2, then you could get the 14 units because.
Pretty close.
The first unit is the 7,500
Right.
and then it demands 2,500 square feet for each additional unit.
Yep.
And that is what gives you a total on both pieces of 14 units.
Okay.
With
All right.
a little bit different parameters, as I mentioned, the 35 feet high and the a little bit larger
Setbacks. Yep. So those are some of the nuances. But anyway, I guess, thank you for the clarification. I just want to make sure everybody understands that what options are on the table for the council and that it's clear.
And I'm going to go one more on you here, too.
Yeah, go ahead.
We actually can't approve this tonight. We do not have an ordinance before us. We do not have an ordinance. Subdivisions and rezones are done by ordinance, and we do not have an ordinance before us. So we can continue discussion, and we can continue talking about where we would want to go, but we do not have an ordinance before us.
So Brad, you said three, to be clear, right? So three options were to approve it, deny it. If you denied it, you have a 1-year period that a developer, you said same developer can't return with the same plan
Application,
for 1
proposal,
year.
yeah.
So that's good to understand. And then a third option being to table it and invite
It would
discussion.
be to direct staff to.
Direct staff, okay.
To have conversations with the applicants about some mutual agreement on something and come back to the council with potentially some options that might be palatable.
Mayor, I have one more comment on that last one. Is part of that, could we say that we need to have a public open house and have residents discuss options and talk directly to the developers and go back and forth about?
I would say that would be extremely unusual, and there's not a developer in the state that probably wouldn't bring legal action against you on that. It's just not, it's not the usual course of business for any city in the state to do anything like that.
And the second piece of property is already C2. So on the
Right.
second piece of property, you potentially could put in 11 to 12 units. depending on the up or down.
Without any rezone,
Without
because
any
it's already
rezone
zoned
at all.
that way.
It would just, and it could be the townhomes, they could come and ask for that from the planning commission. There would be no rezone.
Right,
Because
there
it
would be no
already is
rezone.
C2,
Yep.
as is that whole corner, other than the 2 lots that are RS12.
Right.
Mayor, Mr. Ivey would
Yeah.
like to be able to talk to the council for a minute. This is part of his project, so I think he can have the right to come up and kind of state what his intentions are and stuff like that. So.
Sure.
Just one quick clarification, come on up.
Yeah,
But,
please, please come
One
on.
quick clarification on what you said.
Okay.
Is, you indicated 1 year and change of the plan. It's change of the ordinance, just, that's what you said, Brad. So it's change of the ordinance. Can't.
Are you referring to,
It's not.
No, so if an applicant files an application a month ago and it goes to a vote and it gets voted down, that same application cannot come back before the planning commission for a period of 1 year, but they can modify it even slightly and get around that.
So he could come back and ask for the
And
C2.
still ask for a
Yeah, let's say it's,
R3?
for example, let's say, yeah, you could do that. That's an example of what they could do, because right now it's an R3, if I remember right.
So he could still ask for an R3, or yes or no?
If we turn down, he can't
what-
ask.
no, I think what you're saying is if you modified the plan, he could reapply. Is that,
Yeah,
is that clear?
it's,
Or is that
it's not
correct?
meant to prevent any development. It's meant to prevent the same application being filed over and over and over again. So it's not a difficult barrier to get around. It
Right.
just can't be identical. So a rezone application can be filed again using the same zone, but it would need to be slightly different
Okay,
proposal.
because you did indicate zone in your comments. But,
Yeah, good clarification.
Mayor Groberg indicated plan, and I wanted to distinguish the difference. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Okay.
Is this being open to all public comment now?
I'm sorry,
believe so.
what-
No.
No.
I didn't hear the question.
Yeah, so the applicant
this
has
is
a
the
right.
applicant. We have the
applicant has a
applicant here.
right to be heard on
He
their
has a
application.
right to be heard on this.
The public hearing for this was held in the planning commission.
Correct, yeah. The public hearing is held in the planning commission, that is according to statute, so.
Yeah, that's the legislature made that change
So, what
within the
Brad-
last couple of years, that the planning commission
Yeah.
is the one where public hearings on rezones are held, and they're not held in, but that's what the public comment session was allowed for, and that's what virtually every comment was related to these two proposals.
Correct.
So I don't think it's fair to say that there hasn't been any public comment on this particular issue.
Yeah, that's correct. So whereas one of the options that you're outlining for us is to table it and then enter into direct staff and planning commission to enter into,
No, planning commission doesn't have a
Okay.
role of meeting with
Okay,
developers.
that's not a planning
their
commission
role.
role.
Theirs to review proposals, so.
to enter
they've-
into discussions about
potentially,
a different, some modifications. to it.
modifications to, yeah.
So for instance, if we're uneasy about, I say we, I'm not voting tonight, but if council is uneasy about the current application, about the current heights and densities and things of the zone that's
Or
being
maximum
applied
number
for.
of units that are available.
Maximum number
by
of
doing
units
that
available.
rezone. Yeah.
And would say, maybe we can tweak that a little bit, then we can table it, have discussions. We're going to hear, I don't know actually what we're going to hear, but the applicant will say something, I guess, and what that possibly, so that's like maybe this option could yield something different that we would then come back and be talking about a different plan. This is my first time going through this type of a process too, so we're all learning here. But this is our applicant. Would you like to say anything to the council about this?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to come tonight and hear the voices of the general public, the residents. Obviously, most people know who I am from the agenda, but I am a resident of the community, have lived here for 18 years. I am a realtor, and the community's always been good to me with business, and I acknowledge that as providing a living for my family. the aspect of investing, I've invested over the years in real estate and have taken opportunities to develop through due diligence on this property, talking with various city officials, not just recently, but in the last few years, asked if it was a good time to develop either commercial or multifamily. And from the information I got, it was probably something to definitely explore, and definitely something that the city needed. I don't need it. I don't need the investment portion. I still have a full-time job. So this isn't something that I have to live and die on at all. So first and foremost, I want to publicly apologize to the Lloyds for causing them the anguish and the stress. So, again, I looked at it from the aspect of it's on State Street, it's on a busy road, it's next to commercial already. Obviously, I know that they live there. It backs up to mobile homes, which I thought that would maybe be something of a buffer to build this building. So I looked at it probably maybe not through the eyes of all of the residents. I remember last year there was obviously a lot of turmoil with the warming shelter, and there was voices that were shared, and the consensus from even the pastor was it wasn't good for the city, and I thought that was pretty admirable. So for me, again, I don't need this to happen. If it needs to be tabled, if it needs to be visited between however we need to visit with the city. Again, I live here. I want to be a neighbor. I want to break bread with my fellow residents, and that it was never my intention to force this. It was never my intention to be a bully developer. That's not who I am. I don't. The developing, like I say, is down the level of what I do on a daily. So I'm open if the city is in need of multifamily and is wanting to visit that. I expressed at last meeting that I'm happy to visit, and if it means changing the size, changing the height, changing the density. Obviously, I can't build something unless it's economical, unless it's something that pencils. That's part of being an investor. Again, I think that the city, in any city, as I sell real estate, I see people that are in need of lower income and just don't have a lot of those options. So I can see both sides, but that's where I'm at. Is if the city is something that wants to further the discussion and table the decision tonight or whatever needs to happen, I'm happy to have those discussions. I don't know that I'm open to an open house with the whole community, but open to making something that is pleasing, and that is something that we're proud to drive by. I mean, I see buildings. I drove by one yesterday in Ogden. It's on 40th Street, and it's probably 8 stories high. It's a matter of opinion whether it was an improvement or whether it's an eyesore or whether. But I've seen a lot of cities that have done some of these developments, and I think that there is a way that you can move forward that creates a good image for the city. That's something that is an improvement for not only visual, but also for the community and those that need it. So that's all I got to say.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council, further discussion on this item. We've heard 3 different door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3 that are options tonight. What are the thoughts from the council on those options, having heard what we've heard tonight?
Sure. Just so we're clear, though, before the council tonight is not the question of C2, correct? The
It's-
question before us tonight.
It's R3, yeah.
It's R3.
Is R3, and that's the, in looking at this and thinking about this in a lot of different ways and recognizing that we have a lot of people who've come out tonight to express their opinions about this, I want to make sure that the question that you understand that we are trying to answer, or that we as a council are being asked is this the correct zoning for these parcels? And that's the question, it sounds like, and I would like an answer to the question about whether or not we can move forward with this without
An ordinance.
an ordinance on the agenda.
So you can have a vote, but you would have to come back and ratify that next time. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if there's not an ordinance ready to be adopted. So my recommendation is that if you're asking me from a policy standpoint, tabling it to have further discussions with developers is probably the best option, and then allow you guys, it allows some time to have some interactions, some discussions, and then we can bring back those options. Either way, it comes back before the council, right? No matter what the options are, and you'll have those as part of your packet, whether it's next time or maybe it's the first meeting in September. I can't commit to how long those discussions might take. But we can get on it as soon as possible. But anyway, have those discussions, bring it back before the council, and the council can make a decision based on those. Again, that wouldn't give, and just so it's clear, so everyone here knows, that wouldn't create a public hearing for that. They would have an additional agenda, or potentially have an additional agenda item of a development agreement, and that would happen beforehand. So if you want to do that process, you would have a development agreement that would potentially change the limits, the upper limits is what I'm hearing, based on resident feedback, change the upper limits of what the zone would otherwise allow. You limit that by contract willingly, and then you do the rezone, is how that would function kind of as a process-wise. But anyway, you still have the option of not approving the development agreement or a contract, and just denying it outright as well. That would still be before you.
It seems like we could deny it and still continue down the path of talking.
That you would cost the developer an additional fee for filing a fee like that.
Because he has to refile for the C2.
Right.
If
you
wanted to
do
keep
it by
that
development
designation.
agreement, you don't have to create a new application.
Say that again?
If you do it by development agreement, so if the parties are mutually agreeable, and let's just say Mr. Ivy comes back and he says, hey, the C2 works for me if it works for the city. I want to go back and we can put that in contract. I'll agree to that if the city approves it. For example, I'm not saying there's been no discussion. I've never met Mr. Ivy before, just make that clear. That could be a potential option, and then that would come back, the council would review it, they would vet the contract. I mean, I would vet the contract, give it my recommendation, obviously. I wouldn't put it before the council if I hadn't approved it. You guys could have your discussion on whether or not you found that appropriate.
Does that have to go back to the planning commission if he changes to a C2?
If it's done by contract, no.
How long is it reasonable to table it for? What's the maximum amount of time?
So
We could table it, and it would be
So
reasonable.
there's not a set time, but the developer, the applicant developer could at any time demand an up or down vote on it by sending a letter, and then we'd be required to put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
So you can't table it indefinitely, is my point. And then,
Yeah, that's not fair.
yeah, and that's not what cities are intended to do, is to table things and not do anything. Process them, make your decision,
Sure, but,
and move on.
But
Yeah.
it's nice to know the options.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. Yeah. go ahead.
So if they tabled it, then is the only option the C2, or is it tabling it and then retooling the current R3?
No, the discussions would be whatever you're willing to do, kind of thing, and what the city's willing to do, based on feedback that we've heard from council, right? The staff doesn't make the proposal. We can make suggestions, but it's really the council direction that we would follow. whatever it is. So it could be a C2 or it could be an R3, regardless of what it is. The number, I think, based on what I'm hearing that the setbacks are a concern. And from the written comments that I've reviewed, it was parking was a concern. From the planning commission meeting, parking was a concern. And also the height of the building and just the sheer density. Those are the things that I'm aware of that were voiced either tonight or in planning commission or in writing. So I think those are the things that should probably be looked at as what are the options and maybe come back, with what the developer is willing to do. And I don't think you need to focus on the R3 or the C2. I think you focus on the number of units, period.
With the lack
Okay,
of
interesting.
an ordinance in front of us, moving forward to do anything, in my opinion, would be, should council have had the option with an ordinance in front of us, that would have been one of the paths forward for us, correct? To move forward and approve with an ordinance in front of us. We don't have an ordinance in front of us, so we have two options. We can table or we can deny, correct? Or so in fairness, we have a large group of people here tonight, and I would like, if at all possible, to give them a clear answer on what our next steps would be. Is that something that we, as a council, have the ability to do?
You can take a straw poll as to what each one of the council members is willing to look at.
Okay.
You haven't. Can I ask for more council input first, and comments, thoughts on what's?
Commercial, I'm maybe a little leery of, not unless we're going commercial for resident. But if you go commercial, you could have a 3-story office complex, or you could have, there's some new drink place in Farmington that they're lined up down the street. I could see that, going all the way down to the golf course. So, I think we have to really think here and do some soul searching. If we just throw commercial, it could be a lot worse than maybe what we're talking about now. My thought is, I think we table and talk to the developers and really give them some guidance, but see where they're willing to come back.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. David?
We're not ready to vote quite yet.
We're not
but,
voting yet, no. This is
Yeah,
discussion.
I'm
Just
think-
want to see what everyone's thoughts are.
I really value property owners like Ryan, who's willing to invest in our community that lives here and it has our values. I also value a lot of the people who are willing to come out and make their voices heard and participate in these kinds of discussions. I think that we really do have an opportunity for consensus here and come to a compromise. So I'm really hopeful we can still do that here.
Okay, so you would essentially favor that ongoing agreement discussion that has been put forward?
Yeah.
Okay. Any more thoughts? We can move to the next one and discuss the townhome development next.
Gary?
Yeah, Gary.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had said a couple of things. I thought, you have anything
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, please go ahead.
I'm concerned about the density. I'm concerned about the parking. The parking's not adequate for the number of units that have been proposed. I'm also a little bit concerned that the group here has not enough understanding of what pressure the planning commission and the city council and the city staff are under. And so I want to take just a minute or two to kind of help you see that. On the state level, the state is pressuring very heavily cities to put in MIH housing, which many interpret that to be high density. And that's a complex issue because in Fruit Heights, the value of land nearly makes it impossible to meet that standard. And so I just want to help people understand that while the Planning Commission did not see it your way, the majority of people that are here your way, that does not mean they're not good people. And I know that you know that. It just means that they see life from a different perspective. And so I would mildly encourage you to start being a little more consistently active in your community. I know that these meetings can be boring, but I would encourage you to at least try and watch them on YouTube, double speed them, do something, come more often, be a little more involved, take a little more steps to be involved and to participate. It doesn't have, you don't have to be the mayor. It's not what I'm asking, but I'm encouraging people to come and be a little bit more involved. I'm glad that somebody's willing to invest into our community. This particular development seems a little too high density for me. So that's my feeling.
Okay, thank you. Did you have some more to say over here
No.
on this item? You're welcome to.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I make one more just point? I know it's been talked about the moderate income housing, the push, and Councilmember Anderson just talked quite a bit about that. I know it was mentioned with a couple of residents. So from staff during the Planning Commission, there was a point that was made about the moderate income housing. What that was referring to, and I just want it clear for the record, if one of these were to be approved, it could be used as evidence in our next year's report of efforts made along the moderate income housing front. Not to say that it meets moderate income housing plans, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it could be used as, hey, by the way, we had this project, it came, and we did approve it. That's the only thing that staff is looking at. In 2026, the legislature waived that requirement, but for 2027, it's still there and it's real, and we do have to prepare a report to be filed. So that was the only thing. We're not saying that there's not other strategies available. We're saying this particular project, either of these two particular projects, could qualify as meeting our next year's requirement, or the 2027 requirement, that we'd have to file by the end of July. So it's not to say there's not other alternatives, it's just if they were approved, we could use them as evidence of our efforts going forward. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. It's not to take away anything of the learning process we all went through a few months back in May, meeting with the governor's office and all of that stuff, all of those folks. So I just want to make sure that's clear on the record. We understand that there are other options. This is just one that would fit within that.
Right, thank you.
But one of the problems with it is, how long would it be moderate income housing and on and on?
Yeah, those are actually part of the discussions that we could in negotiations we could have with the developer too, if, you know. So actually the state code points out that's one of the main reasons that you have a development agreement, is to help you meet moderate income housing requirements or strategies.
One concern I had when we were talking to the MIH folks is that they kind of indicated you either meet it or you don't.
And throwing stuff out that doesn't quite work.
You can't just not hit the mark, and I recognize that it's a good faith effort, but I am concerned that they may just say tough luck. You didn't meet the goal.
I can speak to this a little bit, not to. We all rely on the bureaucracy of our legislature and not knowing for sure, but there are discussions right now with the legislature for a new moderate income housing. It's called MIH 2.0 is what's being discussed, where they're looking at a different system. Now, and I feel like the only reason I want to make this point is that it's relevant tonight. We are having a complex discussion. Part of that discussion is that we're also discussing our general plan. it's unfair to an applicant to say, hey, we are thinking about changing our general plan, so we can't, do anything with your application right now. We think that would, the same thing is with the state. The state is probably going to change some of the laws about moderate income housing, how it gets reported. I know that there are efforts right now and conversations that are happening in that space. We are sitting in an opportunity right now as a city to have potentially, and I don't want to say for sure, but potentially having a new member of the House and a member of the Senate that would be residents here. That would be fabulous for us as a city to have some more say at the Capitol. But we have to look at what is on the books today. It's unfair for us to say, we anticipate things might change, so let's put a pause on doing anything. That is not what is before us as a council. I think that if anyone here were applying for a change for their property, they would be looking at the laws that we have currently,
And
ordinances
also
that we have currently.
The general plan that we have currently.
And the general plan that we have currently.
Which did not give any notice to the neighborhoods here that this could be a potential in their neighborhood.
Correct. So.
Okay. We'll move to the next one, the rezone of 0.835 acres from C2 commercial to R3 multifamily residential. This one located at 1112 South Lloyd Road. This is a townhome. I mean, we've all looked at the materials, right? 20 townhomes on that block. It is currently C2, as has been pointed out. Applicant is applying for the R3 in that one.
So on this one, you're looking at currently under the C2, which it currently is, the developer could put in 12 units and perhaps have room for a playground or other amenities within the community that do not put pressure on the neighborhood. But he is asking for the R3, which would allow.
Sorry, can we ask for, let's not have
please, no
conversations in
talking.
here. If you need to hold a conversation,
can't
step
hear.
outside. We need to have people be able to hear what's going on up here. Thank you.
So we would be, if the R3 would give the applicant 20 units rather than 12 units. But he already has, today, he has the right to do 12 units.
I would,
Correct. These are 2-bedroom units. They each have a 2-car garage on the lower and then 2 floors above that. That's what we're looking at.
maybe what we could do is the developer is here for that one. Have him maybe answer some questions or have the opportunity to maybe, I don't know how long he's been here, if he's been here for the whole meeting, but to hear some of the comments and then maybe have that same opportunity.
I think we should grant the same
Enlighten us a little bit.
opportunity to both applicants. That's fair. Definitely.
Thank you, council. It's a tough spot. Excuse me. Been out there so long, I should have drank water before I came in here.
Sorry, can you say your name for us, for the record?
Rick Skadden
Thank
with
you.
Blocks Development.
Okay.
I wanted to maybe, as a young boy growing up on the farm, I went to my grandpa at about 18 years old, and I said, I think I want to take over the farm, and I'm standing about knee-deep mucking cow stalls. And he said, no, I think you better go get a real job. And tonight, in the tension here, maybe I made the wrong choice. No, that's a joke. I promise, it's just a joke. So, first of all, I understand firsthand what it is to change your community and what it means to the residents. Fruit Heights is a highly sought-after area. You have a beautiful city. You have beautiful communities. You have beautiful neighborhoods. I feel as though this project will, with the architecture and design and different ideas that can be discussed, like you mentioned, I think Ryan and I both are amenable to having the discussions that we could maybe find a comfortable fit. With your beautiful community and your sought-after property, the property values are such that in order for us to make that work, we have to get some doors maybe above what's uncomfortable, but maybe there's a comfortable number where we can still make it work. It's a valuable piece of property, which comes with a lot of cost. And at that, we'd be very excited to put a product in that the city could be very proud of, that'd be long-lasting in your city for some time. The HOA would manage and keep the property updated and taken care of in a manner that would always be pleasing to the city. It's a big challenge for the council, and your planning commission asks good questions. I know they didn't make everybody happy in this room, but I felt like they really thought long and hard about it and asked the type of questions that were meaningful and deserve to be answered. I just really believe this product will be very tasteful. The architectural, we're not going to go in there, pardon me, but sometimes I'll see a townhome project that I feel looks like barracks housing. It's not going to be that product. It's going to be very tastefully done. It'll have a lot of curb appeal. There will be some units in there. Our plat was done in haste and we left it out. We're going to, these are all 3-bedroom units, but we are going to add some 2 to 3 2-bedroom units, which would be below the $400,000 range. So some of these numbers could help. And I know you're tired of hearing that the state's putting the pressure on, but I work in a lot of cities and it is a fact. And I think this is a product that could help the city meet those requirements, keep the state happy with you. And we're very open to hearing comments. But design, architecture, and a wonderfully landscaped product, and maybe we create enough room to create a tot lot or a playground or something to that effect. But, and I heard earlier about infrastructure and knowing that things work. I think that's a very valid comment. However, on our side of things, it'd be really hard to go spend $40,000 to $50,000 doing all those tests and engineering to come here and have it be a no vote. So I understand that, but it's a fine line.
Right.
So how do we balance that? How do we give you a product the city can be proud of? Because that's important to me. When you put your name on a project like that, it's your calling card. And it's important to me that it's a product the city can be proud of, your residents can own, by the way, and do so in a manner that maybe is a little more affordable, whether it's young family. Believe it or not, a lot of these communities, I'm getting there. Elderly people are downsizing and starting to move into these so they don't have so much to take care of. So I think it provides a lot of opportunities for conscientious, well planned out and designed growth. And that's a swear word in a lot of these meetings, but growth done right is very positive for your city. So thank you.
I may have misspoken before. I said they were 2-bedroom units. You said they're 3-bedroom units, except for possibly a couple of them. Is that correct? I just want to have it correct.
Okay.
I may have misstated. I said that I described them as all 2-bedroom units.
Yeah, that's not correct.
So I noticed just now you said 3-bedroom.
There's a mix of 3s and 2s.
And a little bit of 2s. Okay.
Yeah.
Just
And
so
the
we know.
2s would be a smaller unit, maybe designed more for the newly married couple where there's, so every unit has a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway. So there's 4 parking stalls for every unit that's on the property that way. So some of the smaller units that we're going to be able to sell in the high 3s are more designed, not obviously for a family with kids, but it'd be a 2-bedroom unit where they could start.
Well, starter.
And they start their path down home ownership and equity and move on to the next one. I actually have a daughter that's probably going to move into this if I can get it approved. So there's a little bit of a personal drive for me to make this happen. So any other questions you'd have for me, I'm happy to answer.
Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Sorry. I know you may not be able to answer this with complete 100%, but just a rough off how many threes and how many twos?
Right now, it'd probably be about, well, obviously depends on that final number. Right now, it'd probably be like 14 and 6 or 15 and 5.
Of?
Threes and
So
for the big number.
14 of threes and 6 of twos?
Majority threes.
Or whatever's, okay.
Yes.
Majority threes.
Yeah, the majority would be threes. The interesting part is the small ones will sell first, but they don't sell throughout a whole project, if that makes sense. So,
Sure.
Okay.
okay.
Anything else, council?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I like being able to see things. I don't know if you've developed something like this that you could maybe give the staff an address if we wanted to maybe,
I
you know,
actually
look
have
at a type of a
portfolio
development.
Of photos, if that'd be easier, I can provide addresses. But yes,
How about both?
Yeah.
Yeah, be happy to.
And then some comments that did come up is, and maybe we're not seeing it properly, there didn't seem to be any guest parking. So
No.
like if you were having a birthday party and you had, 6 cars show up, where would they be able to park? There was some concerns about that. So I
Well,
didn't know if we weren't just seeing something correctly.
Code and ordinance wise, they would be allowed to park on the street, but I hesitate that because I really don't want my residents parking out there. But legally, they could park on that street due to the widths and setbacks on the street.
On which
I
street?
mean, when any of us have a big party, we end up having
On your
street
street
parking.
or on Hidden Valley?
Hidden Valley.
Don't we?
On Hidden Valley. So your excess parking would be on Hidden Valley.
Yeah, but it also, if we change the design, we could probably come up with 3 or 4 parking stalls to be inside the projects. 3 for sure, probably, so.
Right, some visitor parking, okay. And, I mean, in fairness, when anybody here holds a big party, there's people parking on the street. None of us have enough parking for a party,
That's true.
so.
That is true.
But we don't want that consistently happening. We don't want
I
a
would
consistent
agree.
overflow into the
I
street.
don't like that
So,
either.
yeah.
Okay.
So these are good questions. Thank you. Anything else, council?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Sure. I told you could clap with what you agree with, but go ahead. Okay. Any more discussion on that property there? I think want to feel ready to vote. I think it's the same 3 options as we have that Brad described for the others. So
We have 2 functional options in front of us.
2
so-
functional options, let's say that, since we don't have the ordinance in front of us. That's true. So, speaking personally, I don't have a vote on this, but I live close to these things. I think of all of us, I live the closest to both of these. And these properties do not look good right now. This one in particular does not look good right now. So improvements would be welcome, but I agree with this sentiment that we want to land on the right and comfortable fit, I think was the phrase that someone used. If we can arrive at that place for everyone, realizing that everybody gives a little bit in negotiations, that might be a desirable goal to get to. Anyway, so we're going to move on, and discussion item 6.3 is the cemetery. We had a little bit of discussion already. In case things have percolated and you have another question, we still have Todd here. We can discuss or questions for him, but we can also discuss what we might want as next steps, I guess, in the work that is answering this question of what does a cemetery cost, or how can we have it without impacting our tax dollars?
No, one comment I haven't made, but I do want to make, is I'm a little bit concerned about Fruit Loops. I know that it's a well-liked trail system. I know that a lot of people that come and enjoy it. And if we have a meaningful way to divert, or that we have another option for that, should further along in the process, we consider that. I don't know if that's been a discussion item already or not.
Just briefly, we haven't talked about it a lot, but that's, we need to, that's an item we need to do, is do the investigation on what kind of changes we can make from whatever contract the city has with the grantor.
And we just heard about this today. The cemetery committee just heard about this today.
Yeah.
This is that we received a grant
Yes.
for that, and
But
they.
we've
Oh,
never,
Because we've always thought we could reroute the trails
I see.
and still have Fruit Loops, because there is a lot of land.
Right,
And so
right.
we've always thought, well, we could reroute trails. And so what we heard today on the grant is it may be a little trickier than we were thinking.
Okay, all right.
And I just barely heard about that today too. So
Yeah,
as soon
we
as
just
I
got that
found
word
out,
today.
I was like, whoa, and,
Okay.
and sent that in. So.
okay.
That's the only other comment I had that we didn't address earlier. But again,
We'll work on that. That's on our action item.
I thank you so much, and I do appreciate all the hard work and time. Thank you so much.
I have a question. And I don't know where you've already gone on this, but is there other properties in Fruit Heights that could be an option? Because, it is going to be pretty expensive putting roads in up there. And then if you happen to have a funeral on one of those days that we get a foot of snow, trying to get the grave taken care of and getting people up and down safely. I didn't know if there was any other options or if you'd explored other options in
We've
the
looked at other
previous
options.
20 years.
Unfortunately, the whole discussion tonight was the price of land, and that land we already own, and being able to put it somewhere else, and there really aren't any, even ignoring the price of land, there's not any really good spots.
We
in
really
the city.
have looked at
Yeah.
available parcels in Fruit Heights, and there's nothing that would work.
Yeah, so we just have to make sure we take care of that. We deal with snow removal regardless, to get up onto the bench there, and so we'd have to just be more vigilant on, I say we, I'm using the royal we. Somebody, the city is gonna have to make sure the road is scraped and they can get access to the cemetery.
What we're looking at, according to, and it depends on, of course, how you open it up, but according to people who know, they suggest that for every 6,000 to 7,000 people, you could look at 50 deaths a year within Fruit Heights. And we know that some people in Fruit Heights already have other options in mind. And so just from our city residents, we suspect that there could be 35 or so burials a year. So not a lot, but if we do a public-private partnership, of course, then they would be selling plots to others. Also, we are keeping in mind the options, of course, for cremains and services and different things, but you would hope, and there is the possibility of building, snow removal into the contract with the public-private partnership as well. So, because it's if there is a burial, somebody ends up doing the very steep road, you would absolutely have to have that be a priority. So.
And what Mark mentioned, the traffic impact for, there's not a lot of way to mitigate that, but we've got one road going in and out on the plan that's there. 35 plus times a year is a lot of traffic for residents up there. It should be considered, so.
In your conversation with Centerville, I know Centerville a few years ago, they voted to bond, I think, $2 million, but.
$7 million.
$7 million. They just haven't been able to find land, correct?
Correct.
Correct, okay. So, but the problem there is that if you have an interlocal agreement and we have it here in the city, it's gonna fill up a lot faster.
That's correct.
And it won't be an amenity just
non-residents.
that would benefit only
Correct.
Yeah, so
citizens here.
those are concerns.
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Appreciate it.
Along the lines of the RFP document, it's a longer document, but Todd sent it to all of us. Is there questions or thoughts about that? One of them is is it a request for proposal or for information? We've not got like all the ducks in a row to like go forward with a project, which is usually what an RFP would indicate.
Yeah.
So maybe we're a request for
I don't know
information
if
from
there's
some
a-
companies.
Difference between those. It seems to me there's a lot of that information in the thing, and city has under no obligation to accept any proposals the way the RFP is written right now. So, I don't know.
In practice, there may be a legal distinction between those two. I'll double check. But in practice, typically when you have an RFP and that's the name of it, you submit a proposal and then there's usually an award at the end of that. So my recommendation, and I'll double check this just to make sure, but if we're not prepared to commit to a proposal that's submitted, then we change it to a request for information. Say we're soliciting information and qualified people to identify that, and then it could potentially go moving forward into negotiations with them on something more concrete, if it makes sense, and if they think it can pencil, and if we think it can pencil and meet those criteria.
Okay.
So, but I.
So it may just be it's just kind of splitting hairs a little bit on.
It is a little bit, but just to be clear, if the council's ready to make a decision, that's fine, put it out there. But if they're not, then let's make sure that whatever we're releasing or asking for or coming back, that it's clear in the document what we're saying. And if you've got that in there, that probably suffices. So, but I'll double check and make sure we're not.
Could we maybe
Anything?
talk about this more next meeting as well? Would that be okay?
We can. Yeah, I would think,
think with-
there's obviously next steps to get this done. I would like to, have this question answered, get all the information we possibly can this year to answer this question. So, yeah. What were you going to say?
No, just with the information that we got today about potential trail or potential issues with the Fruit Loops, probably need a little bit of time. So
Yeah,
I want to
it does.
respect and not give you a list of 500 things to go
Okay.
and do. But
Okay.
again,
Okay.
really do appreciate your hard work.
Thank you. Anything else? Final? Okay, good. So thank you so much, Todd. 6.4 award, let's discuss awarding the bid for the 2026 general plan update. We have a recommendation, a letter of regarding the scoring that 4 companies had come back with, responded to the RFP there. No.
How many companies did you send this out to?
So we posted it on the state website and asked for companies to bid on it. We ended up with 4 that submitted a bid.
Did anyone else reach out?
I had others reach out, but not all of them submitted a bid. So they, and I don't know why. I didn't, and I haven't gone back and asked, why didn't you do it? We reviewed the bids. Each individual had their opportunity to review the bid on their own and score each one of them. After that, with the points, the staff recommends that Hanson receives the opportunity to rewrite the general plan.
So Darren, I know I talked to you earlier today, but I wondered if you could reiterate just a little bit some of the things that we discussed in what you put out for the bid, what you were asking for when you asked them to bid.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on public input was a big portion of that, making sure as we go through the process, there's plenty of public input of where they see the city heading, and also things in the general plan where different things could happen, and that'll happen through different meetings. They'll also be meeting with the Planning Commission and the City Council to begin the process.
So would they kick off with a meeting with the Planning Commission and the City Council, or would they kick off with an open house to the public, or what happens? What is the
It would be a
thought?
kickoff with the staff, City Council, and Planning Commission, looking for that first direction, and then we'd begin the process, and as we begin the process, then we'd begin with public outreach, going through that portion of it, and getting the information that we can through that, and also going through that process.
So if the council wanted to, at that initial meeting, say trails through people's personal property are not going to be part of the discussion, then they would know from day one that that was something that we wanted from day one.
Yeah, if that's what was said.
Just as a quick aside, if anyone's standing and they'd like to have a seat, there's some seating that has opened up. You're welcome to come and sit down. If you'd like to stand, go ahead and stand. So we appreciate you all sticking it out with us. I didn't mean to get off topic there, but I just...
You're fine.
Got people standing in the hallway. So the question was that starting off, one of the first things we could say is talk about trails, or we could talk about other direction.
And certainly one of the things is our MIH direction. That is one of the things that's required to be part of our plan.
And it is.
And whether the direction is going to be to go with high-density housing or to perhaps explore some of the other options that are out there. So.
The MIH portion is kind of separate, though, from, I mean, it's
It is
together
part of
and
the,
it's
it is
separate.
part of the general plan. You need
It
to have
is
as
part of the
general plan.
general plan, but also its own plan that gets its own treatment of updating and things
A
separately.
lot of
all the
cities
time,
have it as
so.
an appendix or a
Right.
addendum to their general plan.
Yeah, they do.
Who is the entity that Hanson uses to take their surveys?
Sorry, my recollection is they do it internally, so they have staff on hand. And as far as the surveys go, so the surveys is not a comprehensive hit every resident survey. That was something the council was talking about doing separately, not specific to the general plan, but their job is every resident that wants to will have an opportunity to have input, but it will be electronically, right? So that's how all of the responsive bids were doing it the same way. So they were doing it with an electronic, they will have open houses, they will have opportunities to show different boards, and if you want to be involved, you will be able to be involved. If you don't want to be involved, you don't have to be involved.
And when you say that, are you indicating council members, or are you talking?
I'm talking about the public.
Okay.
The public, yeah. Council is going to be involved, that's part of their, they'll be meeting specifically for council members to interact with the consultant and have those interactions and get that direction and feedback. And then they will begin once they get the initial the scope of work is the scope of work, right? The scope of work that went out the request was, you're going to redo the general plan. What's it going to cost? And make sure you have more public engagement, not less, and go through that process. And they will have multiple meetings where drafts of it will be discussed with the Planning Commission. Once the Planning Commission is good with the plan, then they will move it forward with a positive recommendation to the City Council. Much like the rezone, they don't have the authority to adopt it, but their job is to really get into the nuts and bolts. And then the council is the one that adopts it, not the Planning
Will the
Commission.
council have a chance to get into the nuts and bolts after the planning commission looks at it? Because
You
what
can-
happened last
Yes.
time is, here's what the planning commission recommended, and the council said, okay, we didn't really have a chance to say, and then we were pushed to adopt it. And so we need to make sure that the council also has a chance to listen to the public and to make choices and
Yes.
decisions, not
And-
just the planning commission.
Right, so the council, once they get a hold of it, they can throw sections out, they can twist it up, they can crumble it up, they can start it over and send it back to the Planning Commission if you want.
Funny
You
thing, I
guys
heard
have,
that last time and it didn't work. So
Well,
I'm
that's-
hoping this time it will, because we're
Yeah.
not under the same gun.
you were under some stress from not having a moderate income housing plan adopted. Your moderate income housing plan was well beyond the statutory timeline that was required last time. So that was the pressure that we were getting from the state on that one.
And this discussion, for anyone that, if this is your first meeting or you haven't been following along, we, in discussions this year about our general plan, there was a lot of discomfort about the fact that we had quite a bit of planning on Davis Park Golf Course. that is still probably something that we're going to need to have realistic conversations about, as it's a significant portion of land that falls under our planning authority, but does not belong to the city and is not operated by the city. But should something happen, if that land were to sell without some sort of plan, we would be reactive, not proactive. So that's where the real benefit here for us going into a general plan electively stands. We are not being pressured by the state to change our general plan. This was a decision that's come after quite a bit of conversations within the community. We don't want to create the conditions that cause Davis Park Golf Course to go away. That is genuinely not what we want to do. So I do think that we really are going to need a lot of public input. The fact that so many of you are still here tonight is really encouraging, that we do have so many people within our community that care. Please stay involved.
I have one more question on that, the general plan. Eileen did already mention briefly about the Planning Commission not willing to consider an amendment for trails. One of the reasons why that was included as a recommendation to the Planning Commission was the fear that the general plan development would take over a year to create. Is there any indication from any of these proposals how long they anticipate a process like this to take?
The max that was given in the RFP was 1 year, so 12 months. The majority of them that I talked with believe they can be done quicker than that. It's just depending. One thing that they all kind of lean to a little bit, the springtime would be a good time right after all the legislation was done at the state, so that our plan, if there was a bunch of changes or those kind of things, we could have those changes and adopt it at that time. So we wouldn't be coming back right after and redoing it. So yeah, I would say it would probably, just talking with it, be probably the April, May timeframe.
Okay.
To begin or to end?
To finish.
To finish, you're saying that the timeline encompasses the next legislative session? And so we don't like adopt something and then immediately have to deal with more changes?
I just want to make it clear.
So the hope would be
clear
that
what-
most of it would be done before budget season.
Yes.
And then tweaks only once we're getting there at the very end. So, I think what we're hoping for is that our public comment and those kinds of things would be well gathered and underway by January, so that, even December, so that, because that was our problem this year, is the budget kind of takes over our discussion.
My recollection is that all of them had the public outreach and the gathering the feedback starting well before the end of this year.
Good.
So that was all, they were all consistent on that.
Thank you.
Anything else on that item? Item 6.5, the transition information to Cassell from Express Bill Pay. That's a pretty quick one. Darren, you want to fill us in there?
Yeah, so the staff has been looking at some different options for our electronic billing and pay. Right now, Express Bill Pay is a third party that we use with Cassell. Cassell and Express Pay are starting to split ways, and multiple cities have been working with Cassell with the same product. It's called Community Connect, and it's in the same pricing range as Express Bill Pay is for the same service of sending out the bills, sending out the Ridge Runner, all those things. A couple different things is with Cassell, we don't have to maintain a balance. With Express Bill Pay, I was going through it. We have to maintain at least a minimum of $25,000 sitting in their account to go through that. We don't have to do that with this Express or with Cassell Connect. The other, I think, which is really important, is that all payments are, as soon as they're paid, it goes right to Cassell and shows it's been paid. And each resident or those that have an account can get on there and see right where their account is anytime. by being able to log into it.
Will
So
the
there's a lot of
community-
benefits to the community, seeing where their payment is it posted? Currently, right now, if they pay, it may not be till the next day where it gets posted with us, depending on how it goes through the
Is-
cycle.
Will any action be required on the part of citizens as far as?
Yeah, so
Yes.
the biggest action that will have to be taken is we'll start going out and advertising that we'll be switching over, and then the residents will need to go in and just set up their accounts, just like they did with the express bill pay. Go through and set it up, and it would actually go through Casell at that time. Talking with a couple of the communities that have gone through this, it takes about 3 months, but each one of those communities said their online payment and electronic payments increased about 10%, going through and running through the whole, here's our advertisings, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to just start switching everybody over.
Who does that advertising, us or the company?
Casell.
Casell.
And the city, both of us will do it. They got a lot of different flyers and stuff that we can put out on social media and start getting delivered and going through the Ridge Runner and those kind of things. But it's just, I think it's a better option for the city, time-wise. We're not working with two different companies trying to get bills processed. We also don't have to have a $25,000 sitting in a non-city account. The residents can be more interactive with their accounts, I think is another big thing that really stuck out as we've gone through this process. So I just kind of wanted to give that information that we will probably be moving that way. So.
Great. That's not going to be an action item tonight or anything. That's just a change, but change to be aware of. Like you say,
That'll be
we'll all
coming.
have to go in and set up a new account
Yep.
in that one. So watch for that. Watch for those flyers to come around, give us a link and instructions and things. 6.6, compensation study for a pay scale. This is an item returning from a previous discussion and agenda. It was requested that we have a compensation study done and hire that done. So Darren, you have an update on it? You want to
So
share
I've
some
actually,
information there?
yeah, this was just, once again, it wasn't just another information thing. I've talked with a couple different companies that do pay scales for cities. I've talked to a couple of the cities, which ones they're using and how they use them. And they'll go through, we'll put some job descriptions together of all the positions that we hold. They go through and match them up with surrounding cities.
Can we also compare to private sector? Because certainly some of the jobs that are here in the city would compare across the board to private sector.
The one I talked to this last time, he said he does have information where it could be. He did say cities are a little bit different to compare to the private sector, but he does have the ability to pull some of that information in to try
So
to
you-
match with the job description. So yes.
Okay.
It's a much, I would imagine that's a less accurate comparison just because the two worlds are really, function really differently. But if we want to have I mean, he said that he can pull some of that, so we can look at that, but
Would there be city council involvement?
would there be city
As-
council involvement?
Yeah.
In what? In what
I don't
sense?
In what way?
What way?
Somebody like a liaison or whatever.
No, I don't think, I think this is a service that we'd hire to be done, that
Well, just
an
to
analysis.
interact with them.
Well, they'd come and present. I mean, come and present the results to us.
Yeah.
I don't think I see a role for a liaison in there. Is there something that you think needs
Well,
liaising?
I think that I think it would be healthy to have, somebody from the city council. I mean, effectively, you're having city staff say, here's all the rules, and then here, I'm the employer, but then you give me back a thing. So if you have a party that's involved that can be just part of the process.
Mayor, May I ask a question?
Sure.
Are you suggesting maybe, so the way a salary study typically works is the consultant usually will look at the job descriptions based on the people that are there, and they'll compare them around. Other job descriptions, like you typically have a database. One of them is TechNet that I've recently used. They have a database of a lot of cities around, and they'll compare Fruit Heights city size compared to other cities that are comparable, and then they'll look at those job descriptions. I think that, as far as I'm aware, I mean, if you wanted to be involved in the meeting with them, I don't think if council, I mean, you could have at least two council members could be involved in that meeting to be aware of what the process is.
Yeah.
And I think the council could also, have input on the job descriptions, or at least be able to review those job descriptions before they went to the consultants.
That's
But-
what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that is a.
Well, especially
I'm
you
not
and
sure.
David are already working
That's
on the budget
that's
with
what
Darren.
What you're describing is what I'm asking.
Okay.
Is
So,
that possible?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a liaison, I don't know how that would
Well,
work, but as far as involvement.
whatever the correct term.
Yeah, no,
I don't.
I was thinking liaison with, I mean, like, sitting next to the consultant while they did their work. I mean, I was
No,
trying to
no,
imagine
no,
what that
no,
meant.
no.
So,
Well, as far
but
as-
yeah, as far as being in the meeting, I don't think that's an issue at all. Up to
Okay,
two
yeah,
council
it's
members can
just-
be there without triggering.
Yeah, then
Be in
we
the meeting,
understand the
but-
process,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit more comfortable, because then we're like, it's not a black box. It's
Sure.
something that we understand, and we can advocate for anybody else that might be curious.
As far as the job descriptions, the duties that are performed by the staff, I don't think council is the best one to answer to, I think Darren.
No,
is the best one
I'm
to
just saying
answer
they
those
could see
questions.
I
them,
agree with you on
right?
that, but
Yeah.
as he's saying, that we can just review it to
Yeah.
say,
Not to modify it, but just to, here it is, okay. Yeah, job descriptions are easy. As far as, council's entitled to see what the job descriptions of their employees are. That's
Yeah,
no big deal.
I mean, of course they are.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just having a hard time seeing what
It's not-
liaising would be in that, but.
No, it sounds like Gary is asking for just to be involved in the process so that there is another set of eyes,
and-
elected eyes
and
there,
if-
to then
David
advocate
or
for it, or
somebody
David, or
else were
whomever.
wanting to be a part of the
And
process.
Gary
I
and
don't-
David are already ones that are
I
signed
mean,
to work with Darren.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't know what his process is. We just have this on the discussion. So like, is council saying, yes, let's go out and let's go out and get this, this service and do that? Because that was the request. That's why it's here as a discussion. So, I mean, it sounds like you are in favor of getting a wage comparison done.
I would support that as well.
Thank
And I would support there being members from council allowed
Sure.
to attend.
Okay. When we know better what those processes are, we can act accordingly. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, so council is in favor of doing that. Okay, moving into action items, number 7. 7.1 is to approve or deny the rezone. This one, I guess I'm going to state the whole thing. Approve or deny rezone approximately 0.701 acres from the RS12 residential suburban to R3 multifamily residential, and approximately 0.255 acres from C2 commercial to R3 multifamily residential. Properties located at 1207 South Main. Okay, this is the Ryan Ivy development that we've discussed. Do I have a motion on this item?
I make a motion, see if I do this anywhere right. I make a motion that we table this rezone, approximately 0.701 acres from RS12 to R3, and approximately 2.55 to R3 properties located at 7th Street, with discussions with developer, city staff, and direction from council.
Do you need the direction
Okay.
from council included in that?
Do you need that part of it?
Council would typically not be involved, but we could take direction of what they, not to say that you can't, I don't think it's, but typically you don't have interactions with developers or someone from the council. But we can certainly take direction from the staff. I would recommend maybe a friendly amendment of one of the council
Okay, anyone want to make that friendly
So-
amendment?
Well, we have to have a
So-
second on the motion before we can amend.
Well, can I just take out my last 4 or 5 words and stop it
Can
at
you
that?
choose to amend?
So we don't have to do it all again? I mean, I just threw that in because I thought I maybe needed to, but I didn't know.
Yes, you can amend your own motion.
Okay, I amend my own motion.
Okay. Modify your own motion.
I modify my own emotion.
Emotion? To say.
Oh, it's long.
Do we need him to state it that way for the record? What you saying?
I could state it and then,
It's-
and then
it's a
Mark could say,
mouthful.
so moved, if you want.
Okay.
So did it
You
get,
know, let's
did
just
it
do
get
this. I want to
seconded?
keep it as simple as we can. He's amending his own motion. State the wording that it's
Okay, so-
appropriate, and he can say so moved.
if I understood correctly, and happy to be
Yeah.
corrected if I misunderstood it, but the motion would be move to table the rezone and direct staff to enter into discussions with the developer and bring back options that are that could potentially be mutually agreeable with the city and the developer on this particular application.
So moved.
There you go. Okay, that works. Now do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
I have a second from David.
I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to move that we table this with direction to staff to enter discussion with the developer, but also that we include in our development agreement that the building is not to be more than 35 feet high and that there is more parking available, and that the setback against the other residents in the area, both the trailer park and the neighboring resident, be discussed to be more amenable to the neighborhood.
I'll second that.
I don't know why
Okay.
you would go through all of that.
In the first motion, we took out the part about council. So it was Gary. So is it appropriate to add all that specificity? I'm not sure where that stands.
Well, he told us we could give direction.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see any
We're
legal
okay at this
issue with
stage
that.
to
So it was
do
35
that?
feet, increase the setbacks, and no more than 35 feet, increase the setbacks on both sides of the project, and
And-
more parking
Yeah,
than what the R3 zone allows for,
yes.
right? Okay.
35 feet.
And
And parking, is that the three things?
I-
Increase setbacks 35 feet and more parking? Those are things you mentioned in your motion?
those are the things I'm very concerned about, the density as well.
Yeah, that gives staff direction to discuss, and the developer to, wrap something around that makes sense, yeah.
So do I need to amend my motion to also mention density?
It would need, because you didn't mention density.
Okay, so I would also amend my motion to decrease the overall density of the project, just something more in line with the C2.
Is there any, I don't know that this is possible, Brad, but is there any way to lasso some MIH?
Yeah.
So if
So
it's
to
mutually
actually hit
agreeable.
the bullseye?
If it's mutually agreeable, we can
I
do
mean, that
anything
would
in a
be-
development
that would
agreement.
be-
Is it, can you compel it? No.
No, okay. Well, I'll second the
Mutually agreeable.
modified motion.
Yeah, has to be mutually agreeable, so. These are keywords to come back with something of that description. So
I
we
think
have a
it's I
substitute
think it's
motion.
obvious that would be a
A
good
carrot the
thing.
developer might offer?
It would
Sure,
help.
Sure.
Yeah. that-
Because it's helping the
agree, That
community,
is
but
obvious.
whatever.
that
Okay,
would be
can I
beneficial.
clarify the
We just can't
motion just so
compel
that it's
Please
clear on the
do.
record? So Councilmember Moss's amended motion would be to table this rezone and and direct staff to enter into discussions to come back with mutually agreeable proposals that would decrease the density closer to the C2 level that would be allowed on these two parcels combined, increase the parking, increase the setbacks, and keep the height at 35 feet.
or less,
or less. No greater than 35 feet.
no greater.
But is there
Okay.
enough setbacks to do some of that? I mean, are we pigeonholing this thing into something that can't even be done?
I'm not a planner or an engineer or a
I
developer.
mean, that's
So I
why
don't
I'm
know.
just wondering if we're,
It's hard to know.
I think
you know,
that's
putting
part-
all these restrictions on right out of the gate. I
I
don't
think
know.
that's part of the discussion. I think that's
Yeah.
maybe a wish list, and I think it's a starting point.
Yeah, and it
Maybe
will
it's
come
not-
back
maybe
before you
it's not-
guys to
Maybe it's not
review.
feasible, but we don't, none of it, we're not the
What-
people that know.
In making this motion, in making this specificity in the motion, is that make it binding on these talks that it must come back with those things in it? Or is that just count as council wish list, as
These are the
someone said?
important, these are the important points. Well, if it's not mutually agreeable, then we're kind of dead in the water, right? So it
And
gives us some
if-
discussion. I don't think it's that limiting. It just sets some guidelines. She didn't say the setback had to be 75 feet. She said
This-
something greater than what the R3 would otherwise allow. She wants a bigger setback than what the R3 zone allows. So I think that's clear enough and gives us enough guidelines that we can
Okay.
go back, and it gives the developer some guidelines and to think about and have his people look at too.
Okay. So I have the substitute motion and a second, then. We need to take a vote on that one. This needs to be a roll call.
I would err on
Or-
the side of roll call on this
I
one.
think
yes.
I'll err on the side of roll call for this one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Haley to take a roll call vote.
Well, before,
she's ready.
before we go to a vote, can we have a little bit of discussion on
Yeah,
the amended
sure.
motion? I just want to make sure that we are not putting an undue amount of pressure on our staff on this one. This is not, as we've moved here, I mean, there's a lot of concern here. How is this process made public? Just in when we come back with an agreement?
Yeah, so we'll come back with some proposals and options, I would guess, not necessarily one, but maybe a few that the council could consider, that the developer would be willing to agree to.
Okay.
I mean, that's how I envision it, but again, I'm not, again, it comes back to that mutually agreeable, right?
Yeah.
So, and basically it would be, look, I think from what I've observed, the number of units is really concerning, that level of density. Council doesn't feel, or at least the public doesn't feel, I guess the council hasn't voted yet, but based on your discussion, that may not be an appropriate level of density for that, even though it's an option and a way to maybe meet, kind of bridge the gap between what the maximum is and what the city's willing to do. You come to that agreement in a contract, and then it comes back to an up or down vote between the council. You can vote to amend it and say, okay, let's just, for example, it's up to 24 units per acre in R3. Developer comes back, he's like, you know what, we'll do 17. And I'm not committing the developer or anything like that, I'm just hypothetical. 17 units is what I can agree to, and that will cap it at 35 feet. We can get the setbacks a little bit, we'll cut off a little bit of square footage on these, but it still keeps enough parking in there, guest parking, whatever, right? It meets the criteria that you've proposed, and so then it comes back, council says, okay, we've looked at it, this is what staff and the developer have come back with. It's up to you guys. We don't approve contracts. It would be up to the council to approve that. And then if that was approved, then you would go the next step and do the rezone after that.
So Brad, as you're discussing things with the developer, who I understand is right here, and I'm talking about him like he's not, I'm sorry, but as you're discussing things with the developer, is it possible to say, you're going to have your X number of units, and of those X number of units, if you have to make 2 of those units maybe that would fit the MIH mold.
Sub
meaning-
400,000, for example, or
So,
something like that. Yeah.
So perhaps he's feeling like in his units, he would like to put in jetted bathtubs, vaulted ceilings, and marble countertops, and the whole 9 yards. But then he takes maybe 1 or 2 of his units, and he goes with less trim and so on and so forth, so that they become more of a moderate income housing
Yeah.
within the project.
Sure.
Is that something that can be discussed as well?
Yeah, that's one of the statutory purposes for a development agreement is to.
So, you
include-
don't have to have the whole building.
Right. No, it wouldn't be the whole building, yeah, and most, in fact, unless you're like a tax credit property or something like that, you don't usually get a full building of moderate income housing. That's rare. And usually, if you do, it's heavily subsidized and heavily by tax dollars, is what that usually is if you have a whole building full of it.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready to take a vote, council? We have a substitute motion that we need to vote on. There's still the initial motion. If the substitute fails, we'll go back and vote on that one. If the substitute prevails, then it prevails. Okay,
Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Cottrell.
Yes.
Councilmember David Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Eileen Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Blake Winslow.
Yes.
okay, thank you. That motion passes unanimously. Number 7.2, rezone approximately 0.835 acres from C2 commercial to R3, property located at 1112 South Lloyd Road.
I'd like to make a motion to table this action item for rezoning approximately 0.83 acres from C2 to R3. The property located at 1112 South Lloyd Road. With recommendation to submit to the staff to work with the developer for making adjustments to that property.
Okay, and come back with
And come back with some recommendations.
mutually agreeable options. Is that how we can say that?
Yeah.
Are you looking
Same,
for,
so moved.
what option, do you want to specify what options you're looking at, or just?
I don't have specific options.
So do you want less density? Because you could just simply say that.
Yeah, let's amend that to
Okay.
primarily less density and more parking. That's something the developer already said he is willing to accommodate.
Okay. All right, is that well enough said? Do we need to re-say or anything? Okay.
So it's to.
Is it basically the same motion, David?
It's less, not quite the same.
The setbacks are.
Yeah, not the same project, so not the same. So,
These are townhouses versus apartments.
Right, but, so you would still want, do you want the same setback as within the zone, or are you looking at? The R3 zone is,
Yeah, I believe the primary concern of the residents was the parking and the traffic and the density of this particular property.
okay.
okay. So, do we need, my question is, for the record there, we got it? We need, okay, so it's a similar motion, the specifics being council direction to discuss density and parking. Come back with mutually agreeable options. Do I have a second for that motion?
Just curious, I don't know if there's an ability to also see if there's an ability to make 1 or 2 units MIH compatible, but that may be kind of nice too.
We'll look at that too.
Okay.
Can that be part of your motion, David?
Brad, weren't you saying that we can't require that?
We can ask, right?
Require the
We can
talking
ask.
about it,
Okay.
just the discussion.
That's
Okay.
the mutually agreeable part. We would want to treat both of these developers kind of identically. They're
Yeah.
not identical projects, but similar enough that we would.
And both
Okay,
of these, if we
so
don't
that's-
like the terms that are agreed to by staff, we can still vote it down.
You're not bound by it, yeah. You
Yes.
still have to vote to approve them.
Seconded.
Okay, do I have a second from Blake? Thank you, Blake. Okay. Further discussion on this? item before we take a vote? We will do a roll call vote on this one as well. Haley, you ready for that?
Councilmember Blake Winslow,
Yes.
Councilmember Eileen Moss,
Yes.
Councilmember David Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Mark Cottrell,
Yes.
Councilmember Gary Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, council. That motion passes unanimously. Item 7.3, award a bid for the 2026 general plan update. Recommendation being from Hanson. Do I have a motion
I have
for this item?
I have a motion to award the bid for the 2026 general plan update to Hanson Planning Group.
Do I have a second?
Second it.
Thank you. Blake, first, or a motion from Blake, second from Mark on that. Any further discussion on this item? No. Okay. Let's see. I don't need a roll call, I think. So all in favor of this, of this motion, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say
Yes.
no.
Sorry.
Okay. I think I got 5 yeses on that. Thank you. And finally, approving the city council meeting minutes from our last meeting, July 21st, 2026. Everyone have a chance to go in and make any edits that you found necessary? And do I have a motion to approve these
Motion
minutes?
to approve the city council meetings from July 21st, 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Seconded.
Okay, motion from Gary, second from Blake. Were there major changes anyone should note that everyone should be aware of that were made? I don't know what time, but did anyone make significant changes that others may or may not be aware of?
No,
Just to be
I
fair.
capitalized a couple things.
Okay,
Nothing big.
okay. Motion from Gary, second from Blake. Everyone in favor of that motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you. We have no tabled items. New business for upcoming meeting. No action on these, but is there a request for items?
So I was wondering when you'll be appointing a new planning commission member. I know that you've had applicants, and Kevin Paulson's term expired June 30th.
Correct.
So,
And I've been out of town for most of the month of July, so we have we have interviews getting set up right now to interview our applicants and sit down with them, do the diligence in discussing, and just talking with them, and then make a recommendation, I should say, to bring probably at the next meeting.
could I ask that you also put the name on the minutes, on the agenda, so that we know who you're considering?
Yeah, I think I can do that.
Thank you.
Should be fine. So for this, I guess, is there anything else? That's one thing that is already planned for the next meeting, but thank you. So is there anything else council would like to request for upcoming agendas?
No.
Okay, calendar items. August 18th is our next city council meeting. August 25th, planning commission meeting. We're not holding a closed session this evening, so I look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Eileen, second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Most meeting